Okay, folks, how's it going? I see people popping in to see the live show. I'm just now pressing the button to send out the text message, so hopefully that'll let people know it's time to start the show. Salt to Paul, we got in here. DW3, what's going on? Well, this is fun. It took a few days for it to catch on, but as we've been reaching out to producers to leave us a speak pipe for prayers before the show, we think that's an excellent idea, and we just got our first one today. So we're going to be opening up with a prayer. Hold on, I'm getting an alert from my producers in the studio. Yes, what is it? He's saying, I think he wants me to stall. Okay, I can stall. I've been stalling pretty much my whole life. But yes, so if you'd like to leave us a prayer to play in the pre-show, go over to canarycrynewstalk.com. You'll see a green tab on the right hand or the bottom side. Click on that. It's just our regular speak pipe. But if you leave a prayer in there, that's you telling us that you want to join the prayer team at the top of the show. There's also, I believe I put some buttons for it in the email message. There's probably one. If you're in our newsletter, you will have received our sources and all sorts of stuff before the show starts. And I think there's a button in there for it too. But today is our first. It's okay. Yeah. Sorry, folks. You can't hear what's going on. But I'm just going to pass it off to our first opening show prayer warrior, and that is Rochelle. Take it away, Rochelle.
Hello, Canarians. I wanted to take Basil and Gons up on the idea to pray in the pre-show. So, in the name of our Father and Son and Holy Spirit, we love you and thank you for blessing us. Thank you for creation and holding everything together. Thank you for your word and guidance. Thank you for the challenges that you send our way. Thank you for encouraging us and allowing us to grow strong in your faith. Thank you for your faithfulness. Please help us all to walk in your circle of righteousness and to hear the Spirit's direction. Please help us to let your Spirit shine through us and give us the courage and opportunity to do your will. Thank you so much, Jesus. We invite you into the Canary Cry nest, and we can't wait to see what you do here. Lift up Basil, Gons, their family, put a hedge of protection around them, and make us all strong in what you want us to do. Amen. Stay strong for Jesus.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rochelle. And yes, we're opening up that to producers around the world. Go to canarycrynewstalk.com, click on the green tab, leave us a prayer for the top of the show. You can do that at any time, and you can also find that button in your email. All right. Well, that means it's time to get the show started, folks. Let's go. You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is March 20th, 2023, and we are live to tape on episode 603. And today, Stormtroopers. And signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil. Polyswan. Yeah. Fun. Wow. See, you gotta be really discerning, folks, and look at the subtleties and what's going on around the world to see that it's several apocalypses together to get such a subtle and complex analysis. Apocalypses. Apocalypticals, baby. Ooh, apocalyptical. This is my new thing. Okay, it's like Peloton, right? Everybody has an elliptical at home, but it's called... nope, it's Peloton. But don't distract from this very good idea that nobody else is allowed to steal. Everybody gets an elliptical. They set it up. We've got a streaming service, an app. You log in, and you get to join with your friends and other apocalyptical trainers. And you run in an elliptical fashion, but you're running from, different ways of the world ending. On one of them, you're running from like a nuclear blast, and the other one, you're running from the robots marching down the streets, taking our children and our wives.
I just realized, not to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you by saying that the live audience could not hear me for the first few seconds there until right now. So they have no idea what just happened. You just went into some random things in between silence, which is always good for live shows, podcasts. Yeah,
see, that's why you listen to the podcast version after, because there's all sorts of fun and exciting details.
Own apocalypse.
Yeah. So anyways, they heard my idea for my very good exercise membership service, and that's all that matters.
And they'll have to listen to the RSS to know what the setup was for that.
Yeah, and you got to listen to Canary Cry News Talk to learn about all the different ways the world is ending. But we're having fun, folks. That's what matters. We got a great show today. Lots of big things happening. We hope you enjoyed the Canary Cry Radio interview episode from Friday. We got a lot of good feedback, and we'll be bringing those every 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. But for today, Gons, it's time we open up that big old can of disclaimer.
And it's time for a disclaimer.
Now listen up, YouTube.
That's right. And just for all the content moderators and censorship managers out there, be they robots or humans, everything you hear on this show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral and ethical implications of any of these topics, nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. We're good boys. All right, YouTube, we're good boys. That's right, we are good boys. Let me give you a rundown.
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
That's right, folks. We're starting out with Trump. Dun, 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 dun. Things are heating up over there at Mar-a-Lago. Trump himself posting about his imminent arrest. That's tomorrow. We will see how that turns out, but take a look at some of the background. Flippy's continues to march into the nostalgic activities of our childhood in order to brainwash us into realizing that the robots will make it all better. Then World War III. Globalization has rallied and is now even better than ever. This is the World Economic Forum. Now, okay, globalization is better than ever. For whom, might I ask? We'll be getting into Klaus Schwab's analysis of the current global state. Then we'll be going a bit piece by piece from Russia and Africa, Russia and China, Honduras and North Korea. What do all these places have to do with one another? And what is Poland doing to save the children? Lots of kind of a blitz, if you will, of important news from across the world. Then second half of the show, we'll be talking about money, baby, and you can't talk about money without Build Back Better. Some interesting analysis on the SVB collapse and, of course, more impending bank failures. But what actions did Israeli bankers take right before the SVB debacle, and what is going on with the Knesset members in Israel, with some hostilities towards sharing a particular ancient story. And then at the end of the show, we will be talking aliens. The Mothership. I know, it happened last week and we didn't have a show. We got to talk about the Mothership. It's here, and the Pentagon officials are very excited for it. But first, Gons, our lead stories.
We will launch a new age. I am innocent. Innocent. They're coming after me.
Such a relevant jingle.
They are certainly coming after Mr. Trump.
Yes.
President Trump. Of course, President Trump truthed. Is that how we're supposed to talk about this? He
truthed it. Yeah.
On March 18th.
He truthed it in all caps.
All caps. Yeah, this is, the only thing not cap is page 2. And he says that there are now illegal leaks from a corrupt and highly political Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which has allowed new records to be set in violent crime and whose leader is funded by George Soros Syndicate. That, with no crime being able to be proven and based on an old and fully debunked by numerous other prosecutors fairy tale, the far and away leading Republican candidate and former President President of the United States of America will be arrested on Tuesday of next week. Protest, take our nation back. Which I don't know. I don't know how it hit you, Basil, but when I heard him or just read his truth here and about he's going to get arrested, and then
did you read it as fast as you did just now?
Yeah, probably faster. Yeah. You know, when my Asian eyes are going, it's just I look at a screen and I just soak it all in, in a few seconds. Anyway, no, the thing that really stood out to me was, is he really calling for protests? Which I get in the sort of context of American proper, how get your voices heard, you protest, you peaceful protest.
Right.
But it just felt like a setup of I don't know. It seems like if you're going to go rally, you're going to be sort of brought into, especially after all the stuff with the Jan 6 and people, getting sentenced.
What? Are you taking CNN's side on this thing? That this was him calling for an insurrection?
I'm not. No. I'm not saying that. But in terms of getting the crowd riled up, because there's different possibilities here, right? I've heard everything from, hey, Trump is actually behind this to separate himself from DeSantis and make himself more of a standout in that regard for the Republican Party, to, it's just the same old progressive, corrupt swamp doing its thing again. So I don't know. What's your take on it?
So to be clear, in case there's somebody who hasn't been looking into this, yes, there has been. The interesting thing about this is, of course, for the past 7 years, every day somebody is saying that they're going to arrest Trump on Tuesday. Every Tuesday since 2016 has been a day that President Trump was going to get arrested. And of course, it hasn't happened yet. But the one that made this one special is that Trump himself was saying that he's going to get arrested on Tuesday. That's tomorrow, by the way. Of course, he had to pick a day that we didn't have a live show, so hopefully nothing too exciting happens.
It's March 21st, 3, 2, 1. The countdown begins, baby.
Oh, yeah, that's very good. Well, you might be wondering why. Why would such a dear, honest, beloved American patriot be getting arrested? Was it because he started an insurrection? Was it because he mishandled the documents? Was it because he took money from foreign people while he was in president? No, it's none of that. It's the Stormy Daniels thing.
Oh, yes, the storm.
It's hush. Yeah, the storm. The storm is coming. Yeah, so the Manhattan District Attorney is, has been working tirelessly for 7 years to build the case against Trump. The crime being he had adult relations with Stormy Daniels. At least this is alleged. This is alleged. Trump lawyers out there. And that's not even necessarily against law, but it was the hush money paid. That they're going after. So has nothing to do with anything that happened during his presidency, which gives it a very special feel. I think a lot of people are in agreement. You've seen it talked about and analyzed that because he just announced he's running, and this could by some angles be seen as a political ploy to silence the rivals of the Democratic Party or whatever. Certainly some Republicans are happy about it too. But the fact that it is about the Stormy Daniels allegations, it kind of eases off of the political feel to it. Now, Trump does not live in New York right now. He lives in Florida, and this is a New York State. I don't know what's the word? Lawsuit.
Yeah, lawsuit.
Technically, New York officials, New York law enforcement, can't go get him in Florida. Mm-hmm. This would require the participation of a Floridian law enforcement agency,
unless DeSantis to arrest Trump.
Yeah, right. So unless Trump travels to New York or the feds get involved. Now, the feds aren't getting involved as of now. So that would mean DeSantis would have to have a hand in Trump actually getting arrested, being physically taken into custody. So I think the idea now, whether or not Trump arranged for this to happen, he certainly sees the subtleties that could help him out politically. Yeah. And as everybody sort of already has guessed and tweeted about on Twitter 10 bajillion times, that if Trump is arrested, he basically has already won the presidency again.
That was a big
activate.
Yes, I noticed that sentiment, but it almost doesn't matter in a sense. I mean, I guess it does matter if he is actually arrested and you got the perp walk and everything else, which would be a whole nother thing, right? Where depending on who you are, the exact same event represents completely two separate sides of a political situation, whether it's justice being served or, corruption at its highest order and, injustice out there. So,
and just to be clear, just to smooth something out real quick, it doesn't have to be DeSantis himself that signs a piece of paper that says, come arrest Trump, right? Sure. Because law enforcement agencies interact with each other without necessarily the involvement of top, elected officials. So DeSantis might have nothing to do with it. It's just if the Manhattan District Attorney and the District Attorney in Florida or a sheriff's department or whoever has some jurisdiction there agrees, then, they can carry out the arrest. DeSantis wouldn't necessarily have to sign off on it, but it sure would reflect look pretty nasty.
It would reflect on him. Well,
it's not a good look for DeSantis to be seen as allowing this crazy thing to happen.
Well, because the Trump Truth mentions Soros. Was it Soros who recently talked about, and we were debating whether he was actually endorsing DeSantis or not. But in that context, maybe this is DeSantis floating a little assistance over to DeSantis, or Soros sending it to DeSantis. Like, hey, you can, here's your opportunity to get rid of this guy, this Trump guy. And I don't know. Hey, who knows what's going on? So here's something to note here from the Reuters article, which I thought was just playing right into the reason why Trump called his new social media network Truth Social. Trump found his Truth social media platform after being banned by Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube following the Jan 6 assault on the Capitol. He has since regained his accounts on those services, though he limited his Saturday statement to truth. They're forced to say it. They're forced to say
truth,
and they're saying he's saying statements to truth or on truth and things like that. It's just funny.
It was a genius move. We've commented on this
and
before.
I don't know how much you want to get into the weeds of the Stormy Daniels situation, but Yahoo News mirroring an insider article. It's your normal, hey, it's Trump had an affair, the stuff you outlined, and the reason for the logic behind going after him. But I thought it was fascinating that in contrast to Yahoo and Insider, CNBC reported, I guess mirroring an AP article, amid publicity tour, porn star Stormy Daniels denies having an affair with Trump. To go with that headline, and a lot of the information is similar. It's just that, the lawyer for Daniels basically affirmed the statement that the alleged affair never happened. So it's very interesting that, CNBC would kind of go against the grain in that regard. Are they trying to hold on to some kind of integrity while things shake out in the election? We'll see. But any comment on that, Basil, or you want to keep moving? There's other stuff.
No, it is interesting.
Yeah, we mentioned the DeSantis thing. The Business Insider also reported headline, Ron DeSantis is staying silent amid a push from MAGA world for him to say or do something about a possible Trump indictment. Say or do something, DeSantis.
Yeah, what a pickle.
Kind of weird.
What a pickle he's in.
But there's also this Newsweek article. Possible Trump arrest is, quote, effort to distract from Hunter Biden. According to Comer, leading House Republican James Comer on Sunday said that the rumored arrest of former President Donald Trump in an attempt to distract from investigations into President Joe Biden's family, including Hunter Biden, is an attempt. Boy, I'm having trouble getting some words out today.
Yeah,
Trump on Saturday
slow
morning.
Down there, Speed Racer.
I know. I'm watched. Maybe I'm channeling my inner Ben Shapiro. I feel a competition with Ben Shapiro.
Don't even try. Don't even try. He's the king of fast talking.
Trump on Saturday morning said that he expected to be arrested Tuesday. We know about all that stuff. We did Alvin Bragg's, yada, yada, yada. Where was here we go. Here's some highlights going on here. I hate these articles with the long headers. Comer went a step further, claiming that the potential arrest seemed to him like an effort to distract from his committee's investigation into the Biden family's alleged connections to China. So that was another piece of news that was coming up recently, which is from this quote here. Well, it's very odd that this would come out just the very next day after I revealed bank records, which showed that the Biden family, the president in particular, hasn't been truthful with respect to his family receiving payments directly from the Chinese Communist Party, Comer said. Quote, so it almost looks like it's an effort to distract. The congressman continued, quote, but at the very least, it's another example of a two-tier system of justice. Look, we've been looking into those classified documents. We saw the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago for one set of supposedly mishandled classified documents, but yet Joe Biden had at least 5 different locations of mishandled classified documents, and they give him days to go in and clean up with his attorney. So it goes on here about this.
That was a little bit of a zag there at the end. Why did they bring that up?
I think it was the point being that, hey, Trump
distraction.
Yeah, it's a distraction into the Biden stuff, which again, under any kind of normal circumstance prior to the pandemic, prior to, let's just say, Trump 2016, a active president receiving money openly from the Chinese Communist Party, it wouldn't have been even for like Obama, public, if it was all public and stuff, it wouldn't have been a very good look. So and especially with what's happening with the banks, and then what we'll get into with the whole Eastern team.
Certainly lots of things to distract from. One of them being, we didn't bring the whole article or a whole story on it, but CNN Politics is reporting Hunter Biden sues computer repair shop owner who worked on a laptop. So there is a lawsuit from Hunter Biden to the computer repair guy who is sort of the source of the Hunter Biden laptop. But the reason why this is the reason why this is a big deal is because it is the first confirmation from Hunter Biden or the Biden family that the laptop is real. He wouldn't be suing him if it weren't really his computer. He's accusing him of trying to invade his privacy. So he's admitting that was my computer. The things on that computer were private, and now I'm going to sue you. So it really is a big step, and they've, of course, avoided any admission that this laptop was indeed Hunter Biden's, but they also never denied it. And this is the first time that there's been sort of an official recognition that, yes, the laptop is mine, and I'm very mad that you gave it to the FBI or whatever. Yeah. And that happened just a few days ago. So another good reason to have specifically a political distraction against Trump. So timing is everything, baby.
King Elon sent out a meme here with Dr. Evil on the phone there saying, the banking system is collapsing. And then I don't know what her name is, the lady that screams in the movie, the Austin Powers films, saying, arrest Donald Trump.
Right. Yeah, of course, the entire collapse of the Western economic system, banking system is a wonderful time to pull a move like arresting Trump as well. So there'll certainly, there is one thing that this means. It means that there will be plenty of other things that they're trying to distract from, and that's what this show is for, Gons. And we'll get into it in a second, but we surely should not distract from the fact that it is Monday.
Gary, what day is it? Monday.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Gary, what day is it? Monday.
Yep, it's Monday. It's that day again, folks. And man, when we do Canary Cry Radio Fridays, it means that there's a lot of days in between News Talk episodes. So we've got a lot of great stuff going on. But Gon, since the last time we spoke on Wednesday, anything exciting going on?
Other than getting my 2-year-old give me presents that are boogers. It's always fun.
That's cute.
It's cute and disturbing at the same time. I had a lot of people send me this article, and there were people sending it through the article portal as well. But it was a New York Post article. A few other places had it. Dad jokes could be a sign of good parenting. Experts say. So there you go. There's the science. It's in a headline.
What is this? What is the science?
It's I think they get embarrassed, so they learn to deal with embarrassment or something.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, the science matters, Gons.
Sure.
You embarrass your child and it toughens them up.
It sets them up for life, because, So in that vein, I thought I'd share another dad joke. It's been a while, so I only have one. It'll be quick. Do you know why the devil started the sunbathing advocacy group?
I do not.
So everyone would say tan.
Yeah, that is one. You're a good dad.
Are you embarrassed yet?
You're a good.
I'm a good dad. See, that's it right there. So there you go. I just I like being affirmed of things that make me weird and goofy. So there you go.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's what this show is all about. I don't really have anything exciting. I remember that this morning I woke up and I had a thought, and I thought to myself, that'll be what I say at the top of the show. I'll talk about that story, and I cannot remember for the life of me.
I always do that.
What that was.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time. Actually, the booger story is actually from, I think, last time I was going to talk about it.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
I don't even have a child giving me boogers to talk about on this show. I just have the baby chicks. If anybody's wondering, I do have all the baby chicks are still alive. That's wonderful. They are growing very fast. They're starting to get their teenage feathers coming in, and so they look like raggedy little goblins, little goblin chickens. One of these days, maybe if I could find a way to keep the chickens on the show, to have them premiere on the show, I'll figure it out. But until
chicken
then,
cam, a coop cam, cam?
We could just set up a camera in the chicken coop, and then you can just switch to it back and forth whenever you want. Yeah. Let's check out that chicken cam.
All right.
Well, we did have the Canary Cry radio episode with William Ramsey on Friday, and during that episode, we asked people to, send in emails, let us know if this is, how this experiment is still going. And if you don't know what we're talking about, it's because, I don't know, maybe you missed Friday's episode. But we're bringing back interview and topical episodes with our original podcast, Canary Cry Radio. You're currently listening to Canary Cry News Talk. And people loved it. We got more email responses about that than we have ever gotten from anything we've ever asked. Any time in the history of our careers, Gons,
really?
That we have.
I know you told me that earlier. I don't believe you for some reason.
It's by the numbers. We got more emails about bringing back Canary Cry Radio than literally anything else we've ever asked. So as for now, we're going to keep the experiment rolling every 2 weeks. We're going to release a Canary Cry Radio Friday episode. And we'll keep tabs, keep letting us know what you guys think, because it may be the case that we, do some sort of permanent situation with that. So if you did catch it, you like to send us an email, let us know what you thought about it. If you didn't like it, you should send us an email too. Let your voice be heard. But we had some producers get credited for that episode. It was mostly just the streakers because we did not send out. I don't know, just worked out that way. Only the streakers so are technically credited as producers on that one. But thank God, Gons, we have some executive producers for today.
Executive producers.
That's right. It's the only way anything we do survives, Gons. It's the value for value model. We take no corporate money whatsoever. We are entirely funded by people who get value from the show, putting value back in. So if you get value from anything we do, but especially the Canary Cry radio episodes, consider producing those episodes. And you can do that with your time, your talent, or your treasure. But the executive producers are those who come in, they're honest and generous with the value that they receive and the value they put back in. So we're going to thank them at the top of the show before we jump into it. Let's do it. Are you ready?
Yep.
This is a scary Monday, Gons. We woke up this morning with no executive producers. And then, of course, we sent out the email letting people know about the show. And we had some knights and perhaps even dames in shining armor save the day. And one of them, I would like to thank, a very special executive producer, Felicia D.
Felicia D, thank you.
That's right. Thank you very much. Felicia D came in, saved the day, did not see a note, did not see nothing. Nice round number, so we'll keep that to ourselves. Thank you very much, executive producer Felicia D.
Where'd you find this?
Women rule!
Thank you.
That's right. And, we had another executive producer come in, and this one's very special. I've been sort of interacting with this person in the emails there. It has a very cool story about, being a listener of Canary Cry Radio and then News Talk from a young age. And now, apparently at the age where they can executive produce. And so I want to thank executive producer Morgan E.
Morgan E., thank you.
Look at that. Bring them up in the way they should go. Executive producing their favorite podcast. Thank you very much. Executive producer Morgan E comes in with a 111 and 11 cents executive producership.
Is that a 1111 or is that just a?
It's a no, not technically. We probably could get a 11111 jingle if any jingle boys are listening. Now. 11. Executive producer Morgan E. is also on a streak. This is Morgan E.'s 7th episode in a row. I'm wondering, did we play On Fire for Morgan E? I think this may have included the Canary Cry radio producership. So let's give executive producer Morgan E a fire jingle. There we go. Thank you very much, executive producer Morgan E. Also came in and is supporting the Patreon as well for $33 a month. Means a lot. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Where'd you find this?
Oh my gosh. Oh, speaking of which, Firebird Television in the chat says we have 60-ish chickens. Basil, you're going through their little dinosaur phase. 60 chickens is a lot of chickens, guys. And yes, the little goblins. Oh, they're so cute. All right. Thanks for being here, Firebird Television. Anything else, Gons, before we get the show on the road? Oh, we're moving meetups to this section, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not something that you told me was going to happen.
We talked about it. It's okay. It's busy. We're busy. We talked about it last episode. But yes, by the way, everybody, go to canarycrymeetups.com.
Canary Cry Meetups.
Yeah, canarycrymeetups.com is the place to go if you want to, connect with other real human beings who are listeners of the show, they're producers of the show, and they probably live near you. If you go to canarycrymeetups.com, you can see a list of all the current meetups coming up. And if you don't see one near you, you can just put one on yourself. Go ahead and send us an email at canarycryradio@gmail.com to get hooked up. One exciting thing is I believe the Zoom meetups are starting up again. We had one this Saturday. We didn't know about it until it was too late, Gons, because we want to show up to those. But yes, so there's the Canary Cry Zoom meetups going on over at the canarycry.community, social media Canary Cry website thingy. And we will be putting those up on the Canary Cry Meetups page as they become available. But if you're in Florida or in or around St. Augustine, Florida, on April 29th, there's a meetup coming up for you. On May 13th, there's the Houston, Texas meetup. May 27th, Glen Rose, Texas meetup. They're all over the place. And then, of course, Eastern North Carolina, September 2nd. But new meetups are going up all the time. If that is you, we highly recommend it. We get awesome stories of people not even realizing that there are Canarians all around them, and getting to meet them in person, find them in their community, and it's a really rewarding experience. So go check it out, canarycrymeetups.com. We'll see you at the meetup.
This is fun. See you at the meetup.
Okay, it's time for the Flippy update.
It's not playing.
A moment of silence, please.
It's not playing. I'm hitting the play button. Nothing is happening.
Oh, gosh. That means it's going to play like 20 times in a row. Oh, no.
What's happening? Okay.
Are you sure do you have it muted or something?
No, it's
all right.
Literally not working.
Okay, if it becomes available, let me know. But here's the thing, folks. It's time for the Flippy update. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy as a way to explore all the ways that the robots are, all the new fun and exciting ways that the robots are taking over the world, and how there's nothing we can do about it. Today, it's coming from popsci.com, Popular Science. The headline, engineers created a paper plane throwing bot to learn more about flight. Oh, okay. How you fold a paper airplane can determine how fast or far it goes. Thank you. Pop Science. We needed that. A lot of people arrive at the best designs through trial, error, and perhaps a little bit of serendipity. The paper plane can be modeled after the structure of a real aircraft or something like a dart. But this question is no child's play for engineers at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne. A new paper out in Scientific Reports this week proposes a rigorous technical approach for testing how the folding geometry can impact the trajectory and behavior of these fine flying objects. Ooh, we got a whole science report from a university about how the different ways you fold a paper airplane can decide whether it's a good paper airplane or a bad one. Gons. It's about time they start answering the important questions. Here's a quote. Outwardly, a simple toy, they show complex aerodynamic behaviors, which are most often overlooked. The authors write, quote, when launched, there are resulting complex physical interactions between the deformable paper structure and the surrounding fluid, the air, leading to a particular flight behavior.
Oh my gosh.
Very, very fancy scientific language for throw plane, it fly. To dissect the relationship. Yeah. To dissect the relationship between a folding pattern and flight, the team developed a robotic system that can fabricate, test, analyze, and model the flight behavior of paper planes. Now, Gons, in the U.S., in childhood, paper planes are a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, when you're young, you see the paper plane, maybe your dad or your uncle or someone makes one and it's magical. And then you learn how to make them. Somebody teaches you, and the first ones you make are horrible and they just crash and burn. And it can be a very, very sort of traumatic experience. You want to make the paper airplane so bad. Your friends are so good at making paper airplanes, but you just can't make it work. And then finally, you make one that works, and you start feeling competence as a human being. I truly think that the paper airplane thing is like a big part of childhood. You know, you learn that you can create something to fly. I mean, how could you even imagine? And you're just a baby, a tiny little baby, and you made a flying machine. So it's kind of a big part of at least the American, individual's development as a child. And then bringing that even further, there's, at state fairs or different events, there will be paper airplane contests. My high school had one. I did not win. It was due to a technical error. It's not my fault, okay? But, sometimes in kind of a fun, cheeky way, paper airplane contests can get very serious.
Oh, of course.
People take
the
it
double fold
very,
front. Yeah, there's all kinds of different designs.
Everybody's looking for the best way to make a paper airplane.
Edge.
So
people cheating, putting paper clips inside.
Exactly. Yes, you can't weight it. There's different. Yeah. So I think paper airplanes in particular are a very specific key to understanding the modern human's relationship with technology. Yeah. And it could be in sort of an abstract kind of way. I'm not saying I've done some science on it or whatever, but it feels that way to me. Paper airplanes are a big deal.
You mentioned the nostalgia of, especially you and I, growing up in a generation where this type of thing was more common, and maybe it still is, I don't know. But I think maybe, it's sort of it's a simplified, it's like a microcosm of human
passage.
Engineering. Yeah. Where it's a piece of paper, but then it's one of the first things you engineer into something else to do something. And that's kind of the the magical component when you're a child. So I can see the scientific dictatorship of it all, making everything very mechanical, and it's all data driven, and
no more do paper airplanes symbolize the
imagination of a young engineer.
Yes, the confluence of complicated scientific concepts and the creativity of a child squealing in glee that they made something fly. Now we're handing it over to the robots to figure out exactly which one is the best and who will make the best flying paper airplane. To dissect the relationship between a folding pattern and flight, the team developed a robotic system that can fabricate, test, analyze, and model the flight behavior of paper planes. This robot paper plane designer really a robotic arm fashioned with silicone grippers, can run through this whole process without human feedback.
Oh, no.
Dun, dun, dun.
We basically gave it the creative energy of a young child.
Everything. That's right, exactly. When before, the best paper planes were created by young boys, young girls trying their best to perfect their creative expression of science. Now, they gave it to the robot. Not only does the robot, create the paper plane, fold it, test it, analyze it, and model its flight behavior, and do it over and over and over again. This robotic arm can do all of this without any human feedback. It doesn't need a human involved at all. It continues. In this experiment, the bot arm made and launched over 500 paper planes with 50 different designs, then used footage from a camera that recorded the flights to obtain stats on how far each design flew and the characteristics of that flight. During the study, while the paper planes did not always fly the same, the researchers found that different shapes could be sorted into 3 broad types of behavioral groups. Then it kind of goes on to give us the secret sauce, but that's not why we're here. We're here, Gons. We are here to stand up and say this far, no further. You've given our humanity over to the robots in such a way that you are literally stealing the dreams of children. I am truly offended by this use of Flippy.
I think this is a deliberate sort of mind reprogramming. It's taking nostalgic memories of our youth and sort of quantizing it into a robot arm that can replicate this process much faster. And probably much better
it immediately. Yeah,
than any kid.
The robots have taken our jobs. They've taken our spouses. The robots are coming for everything that make us human. And now the robots are literally reaching into the past and snatching our childhood wonder from us right before our eyes. And I think that this is, more than annoying, or more than, maybe in the future kids won't need to make airplanes or whatever. This is a power move. This is this is the robot saying, oh yeah, remember that time when you were a child and you finally made the paper airplane that made you feel accomplished and competent, and that you could master the laws of physics with a simple piece of paper. Yeah, remember that? Well, I just did it 500 times, and I did it 500 times better than you.
It's a robot flex.
It's my job. So they're stealing our jobs, stealing our spouse, flirting with our spouses. They are enslaving our children, and this might be part of it. The demoralization of a whole generation of kids, where making a paper airplane is no longer a human connection to the physical laws of the world we live in. Instead, they'll take our jobs, they'll take our children, they'll take our wives, and now they'll take the very thing that made us feel like we could be some sort of master of our own universe. So this is really demoralizing, and we're going to need to figure out something else. I think what it is now, considering we've reported on some of these teenage robot teams, the teams that make robots in high school. Yeah. Maybe that's how we get our power back, is we just have to start building robots at a very young age.
You're starting to sound like Elon in the Neuralink, sort of
I'm just saying,
him type of. Yeah,
we must know our enemy. If we know how to build them, we'll know how to destroy them.
It appears to me that it's human, I guess, I don't know, the feeling of inadequacy, or it's our own faults that are going to give robots the appearance of personhood. I mean, your level of offense to this, you are giving it you are equating even more than a person, almost like a god who could just reach into your memories. I'm not saying you are. I'm just in terms of your sentiment. It just appears.
No, I know. I'm just calling them how I sees them, baby. They're trying to take more than just our jobs. They're trying to take our formative experiences and trivialize them.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
All right, it's a little backwards.
Thank you very much for listening to my
we
TED
got
Talk.
Okay, I think it's time to talk a little bit about all the things going on, the all the things, everything going on. It's part of the Great Reset. It's part of Build Back Better. You know the whole thing. You know the thing.
We need a great reset.
Build back better. Build back better.
Blah, blah, blah.
Build back better. We will build Babylon better. This time,
A new world order.
You know, we were hearing about the deglobalization that, post-COVID, we thought, all this globalization is dead. It's deglobalizing. Everyone's retreating to their silos. And it was kind of...
you're even seeing that in the upper echelons of American politics, too.
Yeah.
The Build Back Better man himself seemed to be hinting at isolationists' ideas in some ways.
Right.
But of course, the Ukraine war is kind of a giveaway.
Yeah, and we knew that it was a temporary rearranging of the patch bay, so to speak. They're not throwing the whole patch bay out. They're reconfiguring some things, maybe consolidating some things. The World Economic Forum published an article on March 15th titled, "Globalization has rallied and is even working better." New report.
Oh.
Hey, we're doing better, guys. Build back better.
Oh.
It's bettering. It says here, the end of history arrived around 1990, according to the famous book by political theorist Francis Fukuyama. Over 30 years later, it seems that everyone is declaring the end of globalization. Whether Fukuyama's right has been the subject of debate ever since, and whether those heralding the dawn of deglobalization are right should be up for debate too, according to the latest DHL Global Connectedness Index, authored by Stephen A. Altman and Caroline R. Bastian of the New York University Stern School of Business. It examines international flow of trade, capital, information, and people, and says they, quote, have proven remarkably resilient through recent crisis, and strongly rebut the notion that globalization has given way to deglobalization. So they have some charts here. The index goes as far as to say that this resilience is providing a basis for, quote, re-globalization, which is defined as, quote, reforming globalization to make it work better, expanding its pool of beneficiaries, and better managing its challenges, which is just a bunch of something. I don't know. I don't even know. It's just nonsense. This chimes with historian Adam Tooze's prediction at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting at Davos in 2023. What is he, a prophet? He's making predictions that make sense. That we will see a, quote, new cocktail of globalization in the next 10 years, with developments such as energy transition creating new sets of interdependencies. And it goes into some more risk factors, being the digitization, especially because, they say that, certain nations, in particular China, let's see, where does it say here? Yeah, China, United States, the European Union, India, and Russia have each embraced distinct approaches to the governance of international data flows, increasing complexity and raising concerns about fragmentation. So that's a concern that we might defrag because of the different approaches to digitization and data flows, data silos. And that's really what this whole World War III thing seems to have been about. It's about realigning incentives with your neighbor in terms of data flow. If you want to talk about
I think that's kind of a key, that a subtle key that could be lost.
Yeah.
Because you think about globalization, what it meant when it kind of first started but really the advent of what we consider globalization in the Clinton era, mainly being economic goods, manufacturing going on here, shipping to there, different areas of the world being sort of dedicated to specialized areas of the economy. For instance, manufacturing in China, pharmaceuticals in India, things like this. And, that benefited society in a way, and it benefited specifically the higher echelons of the control mechanisms of society, and made our economy what it is today. I mean, our economy today is actually not looking too great.
Yeah, not too hot, but
we're seeing,
last 20 years, 30 years, sure, yeah.
Sure. But, it was sort of the house of cards that we're seeing crumble right now.
Yeah.
And so when they are talking about re-globalization, they're not even really talking about the economic globalization, which is like when you say globalization here, that's mostly what you get is sort of the economically incentivized power structures that are mostly devoted towards taking everybody's money from the lower levels and pushing it up to the top. Mm-hmm. But it is interesting if you redefine what globalization means, which is kind of what the WEF is doing here, you can make a case for it at least going in a better direction. In their case, they're talking about globalization of data, of information.
Yep.
And which really fits in with a lot of the stuff we've been talking about recently with, the economic
the bank failures
now, yes. But the systems that are going in response to the collapse, and also lends credence to the war over data that we've been seeing with TikTok and China and blah, 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 blah. It's the data. Who owns the data has the power.
Yeah.
And in this case, they're saying, we'll globalize the data. It's the globalized power structure.
Interdependencies, yeah. And to piggyback on this World Economic Forum article, I have links to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, who published this PDF in March of 2023, which is where we're in now. Forces at Play, and it's just a 2-page PDF here outlining the the forces at play, the green transition. You got $4 trillion going by 2030. We're gonna have $4 trillion in that market, and then down here it's got deglobalization. Trade openness peaked at about 60% in 2008. It's fallen since. And there is a deglobalization happening, but what is the solution? Central bank digital currency. More than 100 countries are currently exploring CBDC. And of course, we know about this. We know about the Fed now that's about to be rolled out in the US this summer. So, hey, all of you out there, we will have a app that, I don't know, maybe is Biden going to be the one to show it? Is he going to pull out his phone? Is download the Fed now app, the United States, whatever. Hey, if Biden can log in and transfer money to Nancy or something, then hey, you can do it too. So it'll be like a Cash App or Venmo for the government. So that's rolling out.
It's like a government bank account, is what it is.
Right. So obviously the banks going down in America so far, having to do with crypto, having ties with crypto or associations. Choking off the fiat on-off ramps for all kinds of crypto because they want to control and know who's making what with all that stuff. So it's very interesting. But in terms of the globalization conversation, this deglobalization was a temporary sort of a musical chairs type of thing, maybe creating new teams as we've sort of been outlining for a few months.
Kind of break it down so you can build it back up in the way you want.
And it makes complete sense in the context of, hey, we're about to have World War III. We're about to have World War III. What would prevent World War III? And I think that's what we'll leave this conversation and go into some more stuff here. And we're going to start with, we're starting with Africa. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah. So speaking of globalization, deglobalization, and re-globalization, the original or the former form of globalization being sort of USA-centric.
Yes, USA leading the charge.
There's globalization.
Spreading democracy all over the world.
And it's, no matter where things had been decentralized or globalized to, it was in the interest of the United States. All the globalization benefited the United States. And so when we hear the WEF talking about the re-globalization, this is what we need to keep in mind. It's not for the benefit of the U.S., but we do see different teams beginning to form, which we've been tracking for a while now. And here was one interesting one that really ties a nice little bow around, at least a couple of years of what we've been tracking. This is in regards to Africa.
Study. What shall we do? Russia.
That's right. This has been reported in a few different ways. Right now, we're just going to take it straight from the Duma website, duma.gov.ru, straight from the, what is it called?
Russian government website.
The parliamentary division of the Russian government this is their official website. It says the Second International Parliamentary Conference, Russia-Africa, was held in Moscow. On 19th through 20th March 2023, the State Duma hosted the Second International Parliamentary Conference, Russia-Africa. You can find all the recent information about the meetings and the conference events here on our website. Now they have some updates starting today, actually. The Second International Parliamentary Conference, Russia-Africa, has come to its end. The chairman of the State Duma, they updated this, Vyacheslav Volodin, proposed to hold the conference annually. So this is the second time that they've done this, and they are planning on doing it every year moving ahead. The president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, stressed that Russia had always given and would continue to give priority to cooperation with African countries. He added that Russia and African countries stood against neo-colonial ideology imposed by foreign states. And this will be a big point that the Russians make throughout. But this neo-colonial ideology, what they're talking about is the United States. Quote, we are convinced that Africa will become one of the leaders of the emerging new multipolar world order, as there are all objective prerequisites for that, said the president of the Russian Federation. Follow the link to find out more information. So you've got this first mention here of the multipolar world order. And this is really the key word that we see pop up for the ideology of the East right now. This is China, Russia, and as we'll see, a number of the nation states that are kind of turning over to the China-Russia side as we see impending World War III. It's all about this multipolar world order, meaning, it's not the United States ruling the world anymore. Now, of course, we know, and everybody knows when they look deep into their heart, that multipolar to Putin means Russia and then maybe China ruling the world. But it's being sold as this, like, every nation gets to have a little bit of say in the matter.
Sure. Well,
it continues.
Didn't G also mention the multipolar world order just recently?
Oh, yeah. No, they are. That's what I'm saying. This is the key word to that entire side. It's the unifying ideology of the East right now, is this polarization. Skipping down a paragraph or two, quote, our relations have always been built on a disinterested basis, on the principles of mutual respect and non-interference in internal affairs. For our country, the African continent, this is Putin talking, the African continent has never been the subject of mercantile interest, the use of labor and raw materials, and we cannot say the same about the United States of America and European states. Oh, this is stated the chairman of the State Duma, Vyacheslav Volodin, in a speech. Now, so he's saying here, now keep in mind, he's talking to 40 countries, 40 African countries sent delegation to Russia in Moscow to meet with Russia about, what Russia wants to do for Africa. And as we know, Africa has mainly been a place that has been mistreated by the United States. It's been pillaged in many ways, and not just recently, certainly especially recently in more of a neoliberal economic sense. But of course, you go back through history, Europeans in the West have not been very kind to Africa. And this is Russia pointing this out. Hey, we're not trying to be your friends because we want your money or we want your labor or we want your resources. No. That's what America and Europe wants from you. Quote goes on. Russia is a powerful country. Russians are great people. Russia has a great president and statesman, said the president of the National People's Assembly of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau, Cipriano Kasama. Quote, we are always on his side. We stand with him because we see that President Vladimir Putin, the Russian people, in any conditions continue providing support to other countries, and we will be together with Russia, stressed the parliamentarian. So lots of wonderful talk about Putin and Russia and how helpful they can be to Africa. The plenary session, Russia, Africa in a Multipolar World, has started. This is sort of a timeline update situation they give here. Now, Guns, I did pop another link in there. I know you won't have this in your tabs, but if you're able to pull it up, that would be helpful. This is from africanews.com, and the headline is Putin, relations with Africa are a priority for Moscow. And it goes like this. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Monday that he gave priority to relations with African countries, as Moscow was looking for new partners to face international sanctions over the conflict in Ukraine. Quote, I want to emphasize that our country has always given and will continue to give priority to cooperation with African states, Putin said in Moscow during a speech to African representatives. Quote, our country is determined to continue building a full strategic partnership with our African friends, and we are ready to shape the global agenda together. So it's in this context of, the African nations have been sort of used and ignored and abused, but I, Putin, want to give you a seat at the table, not just for the destiny of Africa, your continent, but for the destiny of the whole global agenda. Mr. Putin believed that Russia, like Africa, quote, defends traditional moral values by resisting the neo-colonial ideology imposed from abroad. He also promised to supply, quote, the neediest countries in Africa with cereals if the important agreement on Ukrainian exports was not renewed in 2 months. Just talking about giving them grain, basically. According to Mr. Putin, Russia plans to increase cooperation with African countries in the field of energy and medicine and to double the quotas of African students in Russian universities. You seeing some Uganda vibes coming?
You mean Wakanda?
That's what I said. Wakanda.
I think I said Uganda. Yeah, I'm also thinking interesting that it's almost like they got duped. The sales pitch from Putin is almost like, look what Bill Gates did to you guys. Listen, come with us,
We'll see. And that's the thing. There's no duping even needs to happen.
Right.
He's really just, and that's the problem. We'll see this in a couple of other cases coming up. It's not even that Putin is like lying to people.
He doesn't have to.
Yeah, he doesn't have to. The way that the U.S. has treated the rest of the world. I mean, and you can talk about China or Russia. Those are one thing. But you talk about Honduras and Congo, and most of the world has been severely mistreated by U.S. corporate interests, that he really doesn't have to dupe anyone. He's just saying, you tried it with the U.S. for a while. Why don't you try it with us? Look, let's just give it what do you got to lose? It's kind of the Trump, like, what do you got to lose?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It is the Trump. It is the Trump 2016 move of sort of exposing the problem with the opponent and then coming in just being like, it can't be, look, what are your choices? You can either go with them and, continue to, fall apart, or come with us, try something new. So very interesting, but not surprising at all.
Very similar. Yeah. So there you go. That's the long and short of it. It does mention, some the Russian paramilitary group Wagner established itself in several African countries, notably the Central African Republic, where it contributed to eroding French influence. And then it goes on to, they're just going to do this every year. So that's 40 countries. We've been in the past few episodes keeping track of like what countries are kind of moving away from the U.S. and explicitly turning their back on U.S. interests and getting closer to China. And we'll talk more about this in a second, but we talked about Colombia and Venezuela and Brazil all turning their backs on American interests, specifically in those cases, to team up with China. And now we have the same thing happening with Russia. It's not looking good.
Did they list the 40? Because part of this, and we'll go into Putin and China here, but, African countries like, or nations like Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, and Egypt, they're all partnered with China for the Silk Road. So they already have deals in place. So, it's kind of just piggybacking on what's already there with what China's built infrastructure wise. So, when we identified Africa as sort of a target, I think we were tapping into this sort of resource, which parent is going to win custody type of thing with Africa. I hate to put it in that crude sense, but it sort of is what it is with that intervention of a more advanced nation coming in to help out.
And now we see at least parts of the reason why we've seen the Back to Africa Wakandan propaganda campaign in the West is, they were communicating like, hey, Africa is really important. Africa is really important. We all need to get really into Africa right now, because what they weren't saying is because Russia and China are making really good friends with Africa and we're losing them. And this is bad.
I have to say, thinking about my experience in the church, Africa was a big deal. I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years, at least where I went to church. Going on mission trips to Africa was like a big thing. So it's almost like the church was even influenced to try to, set up some roots, because the UN wasn't doing a great job and Bill Gates was scaring people off. So maybe we'll send the good old Christian boys and girls to try to set some roots there. But I guess it didn't work really.
Well, yeah. And it's, certain missionary establishments, especially in South America in the recent decades, have been co-opted and used by government interests. So, there's not a whole lot of goodwill, even when it comes to missionary pursuits in some of these countries. Right. So as we move on, let's check out China and Russia getting together.
Okay. So we just had Russia gathering all the African nations, and now we have Russia and China coming together here.
Russia.
Of course, this is Chinese news. Okay, so before we get to the Chinese news, real quick, I want to mention, and because this is relevant here, sort of a timeline, but also just how we got to where we are today in the last few days. New York Times reported, defiant Putin visits Mariupol, a city razed by Russian forces. Now, the article will give mention of the fact that the International Criminal Court has basically said Putin needs to be arrested. So, was it the International
There's
Criminal
a warrant.
Court? A warrant
out from the International Criminal Court.
Yes. Okay. So President Vladimir V. Putin of Russia made his first trip to territory captured by his forces since they invaded Ukraine more than a year ago, traveling late on Saturday to the ravaged city of Mariupol, where Russia staged some of its most brutal attacks of the war. The visit appeared to be both a gesture of defiance. It came just a day after an international court issued a warrant for the Russian leader's arrest for war crimes, and a demonstration of Mr. Putin's resolve to pursue his defeat of Ukraine ahead of the arrival in Moscow of President Xi Jinping of China, a crucial economic partner. So right before he meets with Xi, he's going down over to Mariupol to show his support of the Russian takeover or something.
Their endless friendship. That's what it is.
Yeah.
While China has not technically supported the war, nor have they condemned it, but they have talked about their limitless friendship with Russia.
So here's what's interesting about this International Criminal Court warrant. The visit to Mariupol by Mr. Putin, who now stands accused by the International Criminal Court of presiding over the abduction of Ukrainian children, was his second unannounced trip over the weekend to Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine. So it's not that he shot missiles and killed people and exploded buildings and, displaced the whole people. No, he's getting charged for abduction of Ukrainian children, which is so interesting when you talk about the Western progressive institution. I don't know what to call it. The establishment sort of the West, and it's what Putin's always ranting about, the immoral West and all this with the problem of child trafficking and pedophilia, and it is a problem. It seems to have gone pretty high in the ranks, and so for them this Western institution to be blaming Putin of abducting Ukrainian children is I find it interesting that's the thing that they're pinning him on. So, but he seems to be ignoring.
Which of course it is horrible. And now there are reports that, there have been Ukrainian children kind of scooped up, displaced, sent to re-education camps, and then sort of, that's the report. I've not personally looked into it or verified it. I really only just heard about it the past couple of days.
Yeah. We're not saying Putin's a good guy.
It is interesting. It's like, the ICC, which, by the way, ICC, the International Criminal Court, there's 123 countries that are state parties to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Out of them, 33 are African states, 19 are Asia Pacific, 18 from Eastern Europe, 28 from Latin America, 25 are from Western European or other states. I do not believe the U.S. or Russia are actually part of the ICC. That's right. So this is a bunch of other countries who are going to be, taking sides in whatever happens next. But it's kind of a weird collection of countries, 33 of which are African. And, you just had 40 African states go get schmoozed by Putin. I wonder how many of them are part of the ICC. I don't know. It's just interesting jumble of interests here.
To make even more of a bold statement, and I feel like they did this arrest warrant thing to not cover up, but distract from what Putin of Russia and Xi of China are sort of accomplishing, I guess you can say. So, China's Xi arrives in Russia to meet Putin over Ukraine war. This was published today on Reuters. And it says here, China's President Xi Jinping flew to Moscow on Monday, where he was expected to press Beijing's role as a potential peacemaker in the Ukraine conflict, while Russian President Vladimir Putin hoped for support against Western pressure. Xi will be the first national leader to shake Putin's hand since the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for him on Friday over the deportation of Ukrainian children to Russia since its invasion. Moscow said the charge was among a number of, quote, clearly hostile displays, and Beijing said it reflects double standards. Russia is presenting Xi's trip, his first since securing an unprecedented third term this month, as evidence that it has a powerful friend prepared to stand with it against a hostile West that it accuses of trying to isolate and defeat Moscow. Yeah. Quote, we can feel the geopolitical landscape in this outside world undergoing drastic changes, Putin said in an article in China's People's Daily published on the Kremlin's website, adding that he had high hopes for the visit from his, quote, good old friend. So maybe, really, I'm starting to think a lot of the, I'm sorry, I'll let you share your thoughts, but just all that anti-China balloon stuff might have been in preparation of this too, because China traditionally in high levels of American politics and stuff, because so many people made so much money with China, that they didn't necessarily hate China, right? But all of a sudden, if he's going to take sides with Putin, you got to prep the American public, especially sort of the woke crowd, of like, oh yeah, China's bad too, I guess, and then now he's teaming up with Putin. So interesting.
Well, what it is, I mean, and again, look at the key points that are being made by Putin and Xi. It is specifically the bullying from the West that is driving their limitless friendship. Yes. And when it's kind of like the U.S. after decades and decades of flexing all over the world, there's some chickens coming home to roost right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you see with Russia and Putin, with Putin and Xi getting together saying, hey, the U.S. has bullied us for long enough. They want to isolate us. They want to keep us down economically. They want to push us out of world influence, things like this. And that's when you see these smaller countries who have been victims of, economic hitmen and corporate takeover and the rapacious nature of U.S. foreign policy. They are standing sort of as symbols to the rest of these smaller nations, being like, oh, wow, finally somebody is standing up against the U.S.'s behavior over the past few decades. And I think that is what the rest of the world is finding so alluring to the situation, is actually seeing two world powers stand up against the U.S. And I think it's sort of an intoxicating moment for a lot of the smaller nations who have been mistreated by the U.S. as well.
Yeah, especially since Xi has talked about how we're moving into the age of autocracies, autocrats,
multipolar autocracies.
And him thinking that he's one of these autocrats. I'm sure he sees Putin as one of these autocrats. And it's interesting that we live in a time where what was a strength, this idea of a democratic republic of the United States, this sort of decentralized system almost in the United States, the way we've had it, became its weakness in hubris, obviously, abusing our power, so to speak. But the U.S., especially the intelligence agencies, had been acting autocratically, not necessarily one person, but in that sort of forum, thinking that they can take over countries and influence and blah, blah, blah for the best of everybody. That's what they continue to tell themselves.
That's what the PR says.
Yeah. But again, like you said, the chickens come home to roost, where now these other real autocracies are coming up and saying, okay, that's how you want to play. We'll do that. And we're seeing the results now, years in the making. It says here, clarifications: Ukraine and its Western backers say any ceasefire would merely buy Putin time to reinforce ahead of a planned Ukrainian counteroffensive. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he will only consider peace settlements after Russian troops leave Ukrainian territory. So it's almost, I don't know, it sounds like a suicide mission to me.
It's the West pushing. I mean, the West wants the war to continue.
They have to have the war continue,
Everything that they do, every action that they take, no matter what they say, every action that they take, and this goes all the way before the war even started in January of 2020. You had Biden almost literally speaking the provocative words to Putin that at least played a part in what followed. And their actions continue to reveal that the West does not even want the war to end.
Yeah, which is it's so frustrating being an American, and obviously this is the big issue with waking up to the New World Order and all this stuff. There's different levels and different phases everyone goes through, but ultimately it's sort of this idea that the politicization and the Trump thing in the last few years has really complicated even that issue, because you want to stand for traditional American values and things of that nature. But as you realize, like, oh, wow, the United States has been kind of a bully in the world for a long time. It's tough. It puts you in a tough position. But here's a really clear example where Xi Jinping and Putin, these enemies of the West, these guys that are horrible people that need to be arrested and all this kind of stuff, as they're presenting a peace thesis when it comes to Ukraine, this is the response from John Kirby, who was on Fox News on Sunday, talking about the situation.
Secretary of...
he's the coordinator of strategic communications at the National Security Council in the White House since May of 2022. Here's him talking about the issue.
That if coming out of this meeting there's some sort of call for a ceasefire, well, that's just going to be unacceptable, because all that's going to do, Mike, is ratify Russia's conquest to date. All that's going to do is give Mr. Putin more time to refit, retrain, reman, and try to plan for renewed offensives at a time of his choosing. We hope, and we've said this before, that President Xi will call and talk to President Zelensky, because we believe the Chinese need to get the Ukrainian perspective here.
man, for a political elite that have been complaining about guns for so long.
Yeah.
Ceasefire is mentioned. They're like, we can't have this. We can't have a
ceasefire. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, that's the only thing I can do is laugh, because otherwise I will cry and sob at this nonsense.
Notable sort of twist in the whole thing coming from Politico here. It's been sort of repeated over and over and over the past few weeks because of the complication that the Chinese-Russia friendship poses, and Xi's sort of pseudo neutrality in the Ukraine war. Politico here. Now remember, Politico is billed as sort of the newspaper for politicians, the sort of paper of record on the hill type of thing. And the headline here: hunting rifles. Really? China ships assault weapons and body armor to Russia. I love this headline. It serves multiple purposes. On one hand, you have China shipping hunting rifles, I guess, as it's been shipping hunting rifles and body armor to Russia, and so you kind of get this double bonus headline. One of them is, Russia, China, Ukraine war, but also the AR-15 debate, which President Biden has recently renewed the ban assault rifles thing. Yeah. And so everybody says AR-15s, that's assault rifle 15, ban the blah, 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 blah. Anyways, this is the whole thing. All right. Chinese companies, including one connected to the government in Beijing, they're all connected to the government in Beijing.
Good job, Politico. Nice reporting.
Yeah. Have sent Russian entities 1,000 assault rifles and other equipment that could be used for military purposes, including drone parts and body armor, according to trade and customs data obtained by Politico. The shipment took place between June and December 2022. What? It happened last year?
Yeah.
According to the data provided by Imports Genius, a customs data aggregator. China North Industries Group Corporation Limited. Wow, that's the whole name. China North Industries Group Corporation Limited. One of the country's largest state-owned defense contractors sent the rifles in June 2022 to a Russian company called Techkrim, which also does business with the Russian state and military. The CQA rifles, modeled off the M16, but tagged as civilian hunting rifles. Okay. Take a look at these CQA rifles. In the data, have been reported to be used in paramilitary police in China and by armed forces from the Philippines to South Sudan and Paraguay. Yeah, I mean, if you go country to country, you're gonna find,
of course,
any manufactured weapon being used in military or paramilitary. But okay. Russian entities also received 12 shipments of drone parts by Chinese companies and over 12 tons of Chinese body armor routed via Turkey in late 2022, according to the data. Although the customs data does not show that Beijing is selling a large amount of weapons to Moscow specifically to aid its war effort, it reveals that China is supplying Russian companies with previously unreported dual-use equipment, commercial items that could also be used in the battlefield in Ukraine. Yeah, a water bottle could be a dual-use equipment. It is the first confirmation that China is sending rifles and body armor to Russian companies and shows that drones and drone parts are still being sent despite promises from at least one company that said it would suspend business in Russia and Ukraine to ensure the products do not in the war effort. One company said they'd stop, so why are other companies still doing it? Oh, aghast. So this is, and it goes on, and it's kind of more detail about it, but it's big because that was sort of one of the red lines in the sand for the U.S.'s relationship to Xi. I mean, that was kind of the thing where like, if you send them anything or help them out, you're in big, big trouble. And here we go. They at least it is being reported, and the propaganda is at least telling us that that exact thing has happened. So again, I see this on the level of the drone crash or whatever. It's really one of these moments where the U.S. bumps up against one of the threats that they've made, and now they're kind of having to figure out what to do about it. Now, of course, if it's being reported in Politico, the government has known about this for quite some time, but what are you going to do?
Well, I think it's funny, too, where they're like, hunting rifles, but they're using it as other weapons. Didn't we ship like drugs in Bibles and stuff to Africa?
Yeah, we do all sorts of great stuff.
Wasn't there a story about shipping weapons or drugs or something? I forget what it was, but yeah, we've done.
Well, the CIA does both of those things.
Yeah, just gonna say that, like labeling a hunting rifle and an assault weapon is sort of they're splitting hairs there, just to make a point about guns and lean into some Biden policy stuff.
Well, that's the funny thing about the situation is like, oh, you want to split hairs about guns? We're America. We know how to split hairs about guns, baby. Don't even try.
Yeah.
So there's an update. Let's zoom through some of these things that we have here in regards to taking sides.
Yeah. Okay. So let me do Taiwan, because Taiwan has been framed as sort of the next Ukraine is Taiwan. The U.S. and China, who's going to take over the semiconductor factories? Well, the BusinessInsider.com had this headline: U.S. would destroy Taiwan's semiconductor factories rather than letting them fall into China's hands, a former national security advisor says.
It's a good look.
America's sore losers, man. It's a
good look with all the smaller countries in the world are tired of being bullied by us, and we keep saying that we're here to save them. We'll protect you, Taiwan.
We'll protect you.
But if it looks like you're going to lose,
nobody gets to have Taiwan.
Yeah, we'll bomb your factories ourselves.
We can't have it. No one can. Seriously, childish. Yeah. Okay, a former national security advisor said the U.S. would destroy Taiwan's semiconductor factories if China seemed on the verge of controlling them after an invasion. Robert O'Brien, who served as national security advisor in the Trump administration, told Semaphore the U.S., quote, and its allies are never going to let those factories fall into Chinese hands, end quote. Then it goes into the history of the chip making and all that kind of stuff, and how influential the semiconductor factories are and everything else that we've covered in the past. So we won't go through the details. But here we are. We're the bullies. Here's proof.
I mean, that's exactly right. That shows exactly what we're dealing with. Of course, we would blow up those factories.
We
blew up the Nord Stream 2 gas line because we thought it would help us.
Yeah, can we just stop?
We're not against hurting other people.
We're
to
against
help
them
ourselves.
too. We don't like those intel ops exploding your stuff too. But
all right. So last episode, we were making note of South America. South America needs to be talked about. We've talked about Asia. We've talked about Africa. It's time to talk about South America and how that's all going to spin out. Yeah. Last episode, we talked about Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina, Colombia, all of them making moves toward China and away from the United States. And I would like to submit for review this article from Vice. Taiwan, aka U.S. interests, is about to lose another ally to China. One of Taiwan's dwindling list of allies is taking steps to establish diplomatic relations with China, a move that will further isolate the self-ruled democracy despite its deepening unofficial ties with the U.S. In a tweet on Tuesday, Honduras President Xiomara Castro said she had instructed the Central American country's foreign minister to open official relations with China, as Beijing considers itself the only legitimate government of China, including Taiwan. Honduras will have to cut ties with the democratic island if it goes ahead with the plan. The pivot would give Beijing diplomatic bragging rights as it seeks to challenge America's global influence shortly after it asserted itself.
Oh, okay. All right.
Shortly after it asserted itself as a peacemaker by mediating a truce between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Listen to Vice talk about the Saudi Arabia-Iran deal. So if you listen to the last episode, you heard about the U.S. trying to get Saudi Arabia to team up with Israel against Iran. At the very same time, China was trying to get Saudi Arabia to team up with Iran against Israel. China won the deal battle.
China wins.
China wins
Xi
that
wins.
one. And now it's being described as a truce, mediating a truce between Saudi Arabia and Iran in a region where American power is waning. No kidding. Quote, Beijing will be happy to frame this as a sign of its diplomatic clout. When T-Sung, a political scientist with the Taiwan Studies Program, the Australian National, blah, blah, blah. You get it. We lost Honduras. So there's another.
Honduras is big teams.
Yeah, there's another one. So, Guns, you're putting together a fun little World War III team bracket situation.
Yeah.
We'll let you guys know when that's live, but we are keeping track of which countries are switching sides, which countries are taking the Russia-China side, and which are sticking with the U.S. We'll let you know when that's ready. But Honduras, there's another one. Another South American country has crossed the line.
Yeah, it's not looking too good. We'll move away real quick and go back to North Korea. North Korea, this is Al Jazeera reporting. North Korea says 800,000 youths volunteer to fight U.S. imperialists.
Sure.
Once again, it's the same narrative. Oh, so now we lost North. Not that we ever, whatever. But North Korea, not teaming up necessarily, but sharing the sentiment with the Russians and the Chinese about the
it's the language. Language in that one is the U.S. imperialists.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big one there. Yeah, and I'm sure those 800,000 youths volunteered in North Korea. I don't think
you want to eat. Go shoot guns
the
on
same thing.
American.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, this is
dailymail.co.uk.
North Korean ICBM could hit central U.S. in 33 minutes.
33 years backwards, 33 years forwards.
Actually,
good job,
minutes.
North Korea. Yeah. 33 minutes to the U.S.
That's their signaling. Like, hey, we're ready. We're ready to pounce. Also, Poland. Let's go to a nation that we still have on the Western team here.
NATO side here.
NATO side. Poland. This is Yahoo.com mirroring the Ukrainska Pravda headline. Polish ambassador to France. Poland will be forced to enter war if Ukraine fails to defend itself. Wait, is that a threat to Ukraine or maybe the U.S.? Like, hey, you better keep coughing up them money and guns because we don't want to get involved.
Now, it's really weird, right? So this is a Ukraine news agency reporting that the Polish ambassador says to France, Poland will be forced to enter the war if Ukraine fails to defend itself. So if Ukraine fails in the war against Ukraine...
You mean Russia?
Right. Then Poland will step into what? Take back Ukraine?
Take over Ukraine?
Yeah, they're talking about
we'll take it.
Poland then being forced to go in and retake Ukraine. It's just
is there
a really weird situation.
Is there aligned incentives between Poland and Ukraine in some way?
Well, it's the NATO alignment. Mm-hmm. Poland is our biggest NATO member with borders to the war right now. Mm-hmm. But again, it's like, okay, they're just not going to let Ukraine go. Like, it's just pre-decided that NATO will fight to the death to keep Ukraine. Poland's ambassador to France, Jan Emmerich, I can't even try to say this one, Rajszewski. Hey, there we go. Said in an interview that a situation could arise in which Poland would have to enter the war. The embassy urged audiences to refrain from sensationalizing his words. Okay. I don't know how you could sensationalize that any more than its sort of literal meaning. Let's see here. They give the exact quote if we want. It says here, it is not NATO, Poland, or Slovakia that are mounting ever more pressure, but Russia, which has invaded Ukraine, Russia, which is seizing its territories, Russia, which is killing its people, and Russia, which is abducting Ukrainian children. So going back to the children abducting. Therefore, either Ukraine will defend its independence today, or we will have to enter this conflict, because our main values, which are the basis of our civilization and our culture, will be threatened. Therefore, we'll have no choice but to enter the conflict. So, you're seeing a situation, again, that is bolstering this idea that there is no end to the war. Even if Ukraine gives up and Russia takes over Ukraine, the war will continue, this time with Poland at the front line. So that's exciting. Interesting note, the president of the International Criminal Court, the ICC,
for the Ukrainian... Putin, it needs to be arrested for trafficking children out of Ukraine.
Yep. The president of the ICC is Polish. He's a Polish guy. So Poland is setting up. Maybe they want to get all that sweet, sweet American taxpayer money.
Maybe that's what it is. They see the cash flow, the river cash flow. They're like, hey, we'll come in if you're going to send us weapons and money.
Yeah, a couple $100 billion. We'll see what we can do for a couple $100 billion.
Not a bad deal at all. It's funny too because they're sort of backtracking on it a little bit. I think this article, Yahoo article, mentions it, but there was another article about how they clarified the claim about the entering conflict, saying that they're taking it out of context. We're not trying to start a war, but typical type of nonsensical.
I mean, it's pretty. I don't know how you could sensationalize what he said even more than he already did. Yeah. Speaking of sensational guns, it's time for a Canary Cry party.
That is sensational. Go to canarycry.party and be sensational.
Party time.
You will find a tree of links to everything from where to watch the show, listen to the show, how to connect with us and the community, and how to become a producer.
Welcome to Canary Cry Party. It's the place you wanna be. So say, welcome to Canary Cry. Gameplay, Canary Cry Party.
Yep, go check it out, canarycry.party. All sorts of great stuff there. You can get connected to the community. Check out the Discord channel, canarycry.community, which is our discourse server. And also, get connected with people. You can support the show over there in all sorts of ways. See how you can get connected and plugged in, baby. It's a good time. Canarycry.party. It's a party. It is where the party is and where the party will be. And with that, let's thank some producers.
It's break time!
Yep, value for value. You know it. No advertising, no affiliate codes, no platform partnerships, no corporate money whatsoever. We're entirely funded by listeners of the show who get value. If this show brings any value to your life, consider putting some value back in. And that can come in the form of your time, your talent, or your treasure. All sorts of good ways to put some value back in. It's not just charity. It's not just, pitching in. It is a paradigm shift that recognizes that we as individuals are responsible for which media survives, which media propagates, and which media does not. No longer are we resting on our heels or whatever and allowing corporate money behind corporate interests decide which media exists and which doesn't. We've lived that way for far too long, and look where it's got us. So if you get any value from the show, consider putting value back in. It can be, one-time producerships financially. You can help us out with back-end processes, or you can create art in all sorts of ways to get integrated and featured on the show. Consider the value that this show has brought you so far through the pandemic. Consider the value that the show can bring you as we move into this next strange, dark period as geopolitical tensions rise and uncertainty abounds, especially if you're relying on the mainstream corporate corporate news media to tell you what to think about what. This is really the time to invest in the future coverage that Canary Cry can continue to do. And one great way to do that is to sign up for a recurring monthly producership. It's easy and it's affordable, and it's, I believe, a small price to pay for some quality, integrous, down-to-earth media that does not get caught up not only in the mainstream corporate media shenanigans, but we can all agree that even independent media, especially independent media that relies on advertising dollars for its funding online, I don't need to name names, you know them. If you're relying on that format to get your deconstruction, your analysis, your thoughtful reflections on things going on, there's going to be a problem if there's corporate interests behind your quote-unquote independent media. So join the community. Join the hordes of other producers who are keeping the show alive. Two great ways are joining the Canary Cry supply drop. That's, you get cool gear sent to you 4 times a year, or the Canary Cry T-shirt Council. Both at different yet affordable price points. Go to canarycrysupply.com or canarycrytshirtcouncil.com to check those out. Get yourself some T-shirts, baby. Oh, man, we're so close to finishing up the voting for the T-shirt Council. I'm very excited. But there you go. Let's thank some producers who have kept this show going one more episode. You ready?
Yep.
We already thanked our executive producers, Felicia D. and Morgan E. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
We got some more to thank, starting with Arwin C.
Thank you, Arwin. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, producer Arwin C.
Have you seen Arwin before?
I don't think so. No, I didn't recognize him.
Yeah, thanks,
but thank you very much, Arwin. Came in with a nice round number. And Arwin came in on Friday, so there's a chance that they were producing the Canary Cry radio episode. So we appreciate that, Arwin. Yeah, next up, a short list today. Next up, we got Sir Moore of Night of the Burning Chariots coming in for 1111. 207 episodes in a row. Good streak.
Oh, yeah, Streakalicious.
Thank you, Sir Moore.
Streakalicious indeed. And then, of course, we got Sir LX Protocol V2, Night of the Burian Protocol. And Sir LX Protocol V2 is on a 150 episode streak.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Came in for a pocket full of 7s. And that's it. That is our list of producers who came in above 777, which entitles them to have a note read on the show. But we got some people who came in beneath that amount, under the 777 cutoff, and we'll thank them right now. Starting with producer Michael B. Came in on the Patreon.
Hey, thank you, Michael B. Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. Next, we got Dame Gale, Canary Whisperer, and Lady of X's and O's, 237 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Dame Gale.
Sir Casey the Shield Knight, 275 in a row.
Thank you, Sir Casey.
Veronica D, 237.
Thank you, Veronica D.
Doctor Who Dundat, 39.
Thank you, Doctor Who Dundat.
Sir Scott, Knight of Truth, 264 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Sir Scott.
Oh, yeah, Streakalicious.
Women rule.
Appreciate you guys.
That's right. A couple of things to note. As we move through the Canary Cry radio experiment, bringing those episodes back, we will make available separate producership options if you'd like to specifically produce Canary Cry radio interviews and topical episodes. That's number one. And number two, if anyone out there has any ideas about, how producership can look, because we know, the economy of the world is completely insane. We understand it. The value for value model is entirely dependent on individuals' ability to support podcasts, and that comes under threat when global economics are shaky. And that's just part of the system. That's part of the the stepping out in faith that is the value for value model. People who are playing advertisements and taking corporate money sure have a little bit of an easier time during times like this. So we are open for suggestions. If there's someone out there who has any ideas or some insight maybe on maybe what we could do, how we could provide more value, and how we can justify our existence is kind of what the battle is now. Yeah, let us know. Send us an email.
Help us stay in front of the rate of inflation, because I think we're losing that battle. I think everyone's losing that battle a little bit.
Oh, it's not even inflation. We're like at, yeah. I mean, it's not trying to get too in the weeds here, folks, but yeah, it sure ain't 2020 anymore. And inflation is the least of our worries right now, as far as you and I are concerned, Gons. Yeah. So there you go. Let us know. We'd love to hear from everybody. But with that, thank you to everybody who has produced the show. We have some more artists and producers we'll thank later on. And thank you so much for your patronage.
Shut up and take my money.
Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your patronage.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Build back better. Build back better.
Blah, blah, blah.
Build back better. We will build Babylon better. This time,
a new world order.
Just a real quick catch up on the SVB situation. Now, SVB, as we know, is the bank who went belly up, a week ago now, maybe a week and a half. And, SVB as a singular institution is more interesting as it relates to the rest of the economic topography. SVB as one institution is interesting, but it's more interesting to look at the rest of our economic landscape in similar terms. But I want to start with a big deal from the Biden administration. Brought this from The Hill, and the headline is Biden issues first veto, rejecting bill to reverse ESG rule.
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
These vetoes are almost always a big deal, even if they're not sort of the biggest policy. But for those who might not be super familiar with how the government in the U.S. works, so we have 3 different places a law needs to go through in order to become a law, to make it on the books. You start in the House, and that's a big group of people, and they vote on it. Then it goes to the Senate, and then they vote on it too. It goes to Congress. They vote on it. And then if it passes them, then it gets sent to the president. And he's the third guy or gal who need to approve the bill before it gets going. Now, almost 100% of the time, the president will sign the bill because it is considered the voice of the people. So when a president vetoes a bill, it's kind of a big deal. It is one guy who has the ability to say no for the rest of the country. Now, this one interesting, or maybe not interesting, specifically because it's about ESG. And Biden, the father of ESG in the U.S., starting with his infrastructure bill. This was a bill rejecting, rolling back something that was in his infrastructure bill. Now, let's see what it is. President Biden on Monday issued his first veto since taking office, rejecting a bill that would have reversed a Labor Department rule on environmental, social, and governance investing.
ESG. There it is.
Quote, "I just vetoed my first bill," Biden said in a tweet announcing the move. "This bill would risk your retirement savings by making it illegal to consider risk factors MAGA House Republicans don't like. Your plan manager should be able to protect your hard-earned savings, whether Representative Marjorie Taylor likes it or not," he said, referring to the referring to the Republican Congresswoman from Georgia. The Biden administration had previously issued a rule stating that money managers can weigh climate change and other ESG factors when they make decisions for retirement investments on behalf of clients. It replaced a rule from the era of former President Trump that Biden administration said discouraged the consideration of ESG factors. Quote, even in cases where it is in the financial interest of plans to take such consideration into account. So without getting too deep into this, because points being made on both sides of this are actually really annoying in how stupid they are. But the ESG protocols that were sort of pushed into the limelight with the infrastructure bill means that people who manage investments, especially people who manage investments for other people, not only have to or can look at the financial benefits of an investment, but also what it means for basically social justice. And the situation has been that sometimes if your investment guy cares more about whatever, clean energy, than he does about making you money, he can justify making investment decisions that make you less money. So people who manage funds like retirement funds or whatever, they have a legal obligation. And this is kind of the little twist in it. There is a legal obligation to make the best decisions financially that you possibly can, which means that keeps investment people from, investing your money perhaps in a company that their friend owns or that their mom owns or something, or maybe even investing in companies that they agree with politically. There's a lot of power held in the hands of those who manage other people's investments. Now, ESG rules came around that said, okay, you investment managers, not only are you required to make the best financial decisions for your clients, but now you can also make decisions based on ESG, based on social justice, which it's one thing, Gons, if you're managing your own money and you want to invest in a company because you feel like they're good people, but to have somebody else make a less profitable decision with your money because they want to support a solar panel company, that's what a lot of Republicans have problems with, is giving any sort of opportunity for shenanigans for investment managers to play with other people's money in a way that doesn't make them the most possible profit. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so if I'm managing your investments, Gons, you give me some money. I go, okay, how it was before is, okay, I will make the best financial decisions no matter what. You'll make the most money possible.
Right.
That sounds pretty good, right?
Yep.
Now, with Biden's rule, you give me your money, and I go, I would usually make you the most money possible, Gons. But this other company, they make prosthetic legs for puppies, and I think that's actually more important than making you the most money. I'm going to decide to invest in robotic legs for puppies because it's the right thing for the earth. And you don't necessarily have a choice in it. You are losing out on money because I decided to put your money in an ESG-based investment. And so Republicans don't like this. It seems unfair. It's not so much that it's unfair. It just leaves room for corruption, basically. It gives you another way to justify a bad investment.
Yeah.
So that's that. Okay, Biden's vetoing that. He's defending his infrastructure bill. ESG. That's a whole big conversation.
Which, by the way, I'm going to call it. I coined evil satanic governance, and then it was stolen from me by Elon Musk.
Yeah. Of course, ESG used to be a conspiracy theory for those who were paying attention to WEF back in 2016. But now ESG is a codified law of the land. So another win for the conspiracy theorists. Now, let's go over to the Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
Let's talk about SVB. Mm-hmm. Did ESG help sink SVB?
Okay.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah. This is an opinion piece, but it does some great explaining.
SVB being the Silicon Valley
Bank that crashed, yes. And that's being compared to the 2008 crisis, maybe the start of it. Here it goes. If government funds it, they will come. That's an overlooked storyline in the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. If Washington wants to point fingers, it should aim the biggest digit at itself. Let's talk about what actually imploded over the past week. If the name wasn't already a giveaway, SVB was the lender of choice for tech dreamers. It claimed to have banked nearly half of all U.S. venture-backed tech and healthcare startups. Yet, in recent years, those clients have skewed ever more in one direction. Quote, "We serve those creating positive environmental change," SVB's website brags, noting that the bank worked with some 1,550 companies in the, quote, climate technology and sustainability sector.
Climate change.
Most of these companies weren't filling some vital market need. Rather, as the Journal reported, SVB is beloved for its willingness to offer, quote, banking services to startups that often weren't profitable. In some cases, didn't have a product and would otherwise have a hard time getting a line of credit or a loan from a larger bank.
Oh, like it should be. If you don't have a good reason to get money from a bank, maybe you shouldn't get money from a bank.
Yeah, if you're not a business that is making money or can make money or is trying to make money, then usually you can't get a loan. Now, if you're a bank who's trying to save the world, that doesn't mean you're going to make money. So banks aren't going to give you loans. But SVB would brag about the fact that they would give loans to companies who couldn't really justify taking the money.
Well, they have a track record. They have success stories like Moderna, who didn't have a product for a decade. And became the darlings of the pandemic with making billions for people. So, yeah.
And so, you know, that's kind of how Silicon Valley operates. You know, these tech startups, they're all looking to solve a problem or a problem they think there is, you know. And, you know, it's one thing to have a startup and get some investment or a loan. It's another thing to actually deliver a marketable product. Right. And that's where SVB was kind of known for taking risks. Now, in 2008, the big problem was the banks were giving loans to people who could not afford it. Right. That was sort of the core fundamental problem. Yeah. Subprime mortgages. It was really easy to get a loan for a house. You barely had to approve, you know, the approval mechanisms were very easy. And you do this a couple million times, and now you have a couple million families who, surprise, surprise, can't afford their $1 million mortgage, then payments stop getting made and the whole thing collapses, the subprime mortgages. Now, listen to what this guy says about SVB. So SVB was giving banking services to startups that often weren't profitable, in some cases didn't have a product, and would otherwise have a hard time getting a line of credit or a loan from a larger bank. One tech entrepreneur provided Law.com a more scathing description of SVB's products. Quote, "They're basically subprime business loans. You're talking about companies that have no credit profile, that are earning cash and are unlikely to raise the same type of capital because of interest rates. It's basically social credit." Okay, so we're getting closer to something here. You know, we can actually see, we can understand this subprime situation. It's very similar to the subprime situation in 2008. Instead of houses and mortgages, though, it's business loans. Make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. But there's more. What inspires a bank to disregard risk and shower money on products or services that nobody is clamoring to buy? One answer is easy money and misguided regulation, which washed dollars into the economy even as it pushed banks like SVB to load up on sovereign debt. That means making loans. Lulled by a Federal Reserve Fed belief that interest rates would stay near zero forever. The other, Washington, we talked about the bonds. We talked about the bonds and the Federal Reserve basically literally saying that they're going to keep rates low forever.
0.1% in 2023. Oops, it was 4.75%. Off by
now, here's the other
47. Yeah, go ahead.
So we got that first half right. Here's the other half. The other, Washington handouts via President Biden's effort to engineer a climate industry that otherwise wouldn't exist.
Oh, no. This is some pretty... It's all falling apart. What's going on? Why?
This is the Build Back Better, clean energy, green, blah, blah, blah. This is everything. And remember that infrastructure bill that Biden just defended by vetoing the Republican bill? That exact thing works into this. Congress's $1.2 trillion 2021 infrastructure bill was a starting gun for a clean tech frenzy. The bill made available hundreds of billions for technologies for electrical grid modification, solar, carbon capture, battery storage, electric vehicle charging infrastructure, geothermal, smart community widgets, microgrids, CO2 transport, hydro, wind, fuel cells, waste management, and efficiency gains. Last year's so-called Inflation Reduction Act threw yet more dollars at would-be green innovators, while also extending billions in household tax credits in an attempt to lure Americans to buy these government-fueled concoctions. The Biden bills were a supercharged version of Barack Obama's 2009 stimulus, which produced Solyndра's federal loan guarantees and other green embarrassments. Yet Washington is adept at repeating mistakes. The feds did this time largely offload responsibility to the state and local authorities and industrial players, and kind of goes into some of the more details there. While the main reason SBV failed was its decision to buy bonds at the top of the market, it got hit when it had to sell. It had also in the past few years further stretched itself by sizably increasing its loans and lines of credit to subprime firms. How much of what would have happened if not for the Biden pot of gold at the end of the green tech rainbow? And so it tells this story of the reason that SVB was pumping so much money into ESG companies, solar companies, battery companies, hydro companies, all of these green tech startups. The reason they felt so safe doing that is because the government was pumping in money, pumping in subsidies, pumping in tax breaks, building an economy basically out of nothing for the ESG, Build Back Better industries. And so, again, you look at SVB, they bought the bonds because the Fed told them it was a good idea. And they invested heavily in useless startups with no credit history, no product. Maybe they had a business plan. Are you
sure you're talking about Silicon Valley, not the crypto markets? It sounds like crypto. Spin up a project. Raise some money with an ICO.
The reasoning is very similar, except for this time, SVB was not getting, encouraged by BitBoy Crypto or some, crypto YouTuber. They were being encouraged by the President of the United States of America. Yeah. So it almost exactly, I was wrong before when I said it had nothing to do with 2008. It exactly had to do with the same thing that happened in 2008, with the exception is it wasn't lack of regulation. It was precisely Biden telling people to invest in clean energy or green businesses or build back better. It was, again, SVB doing exactly what the government wanted them to do is what caused the whole breakdown. And of course, it's all revolves around ESG, all revolves around World Economic Forum, the plan for the future and the restructuring of the economy and the stakeholder, blah, blah, blah. The SVB was just being a good boy, doing exactly what they were told. And lo and behold, you listen to the government, and this is where you end up. I thought it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, well, this is, we're really seeing the controlled demolition of what came from the third industrial revolution, and they're showing the faults. And really, I find it fascinating that, man, we always kind of knew that the whole thing was a charade, especially people, you start waking up to the New World Order, you start learning about how the US dollar system works, you start learning about how banks work and how governments sort of collude with the banks, and there's a whole nepotism kind of thing going on in the background. But for all this to fall apart right now, the timing of it is impeccable, and the Biden presidency just seems very, very planned. To get this guy in here, doesn't really know he's kind of just bumbles his way through. Meanwhile, we can tear down everything so we can build it back up. And
the fun part is you can identify it as a controlled demolition, not because Build Back Better infrastructure bill didn't work.
Right.
It's precisely because it did work that it imploded the bank. Yeah. It's not that Build Back Better infrastructure bill, Joe Biden's plan didn't work that broke things. It was everybody believed him and did exactly what he asked, and it was the exact thing that brought the whole thing down. It's really incredible, and it's not done. That's the scary
we're hearing about,
it's not necessarily done.
We're hearing about 200 more banks about to have the same fate as SVB.
That are at risk. Yes, at risk. 200 more banks at risk.
We talked about the 650 billion unrealized losses from these banks. So, and that was sort of the reason why the bank run started with Peter Thiel and everything. But yeah, hey, thanks, Biden.
I wrote the bill.
You sure did, buddy. You did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say,
give this man a cookie.
Yeah, seriously. And to kind of piggyback on some of the whole SVB situation, got a little bit of a Israel thing here.
Zionist pig!
This is National. What is this? What's the website? National File. .com. The headline here: Israeli bankers pulled $1 billion from SVB immediately before its collapse.
Yeah, good timing.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
They were on the Peter Thiel newsletter.
The newsletter? Okay, yeah. They made Peter Thiel, so yeah, it makes sense. Israeli bankers and tech firms pulled a whopping $1 billion from the failed Silicon Valley Bank in the days immediately leading up to its collapse, marking America's biggest financial meltdown since 2008 and the second biggest bank collapse in American history. This also mentions ESG, by the way. The Silicon Valley Bank, an openly left-wing financial operation that promoted woke capital ESG programs and worked closely with politicians and tech oligarchs alike, is not only linked to powerful Americans, but to powerful Israelis as well. According to the Times of Israel, in the days immediately preceding the bank's collapse, Israeli bankers working on behalf of themselves and the nation's own tech oligarchs pulled a whopping $1 billion out of SVB. So, again, the people in the know are not the people getting hurt here. It's maybe young entrepreneurs or young business startups that have a goal. They want to comply. They want to fix the world. They want to, help the environment. They swallowed the carrot I guess they're just, they're being led by the carrot. They bought the propaganda that said, hey, we're going to do this green thing. We're going to fund you. We're going to help you. And they just rug pulled everybody. And the people that don't get hurt are the big boys that,
Well, it's interesting. I just thought of this, and I think it's connected. I think that's a reason why the FDIC went ahead and covered all depositors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk right now with, okay, you covered all depositors, even those who weren't insured. What's going on? Well, it's because everybody in SVB was there because they were following the ESG protocols. And they were, and so Biden couldn't let them die because they're the ones who are actually following the plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if he didn't bail them out and they all went under, there's wow, hundreds of companies who were supposed to be the Build Back Better ESG new industry, and the entire industry falls because of the ESG policies. It makes way more sense that Biden and the FDIC would come in, cover all depositors, no matter how much money they had in there, because again, it's artificially creating and sustaining the Build Back Better industry.
Yeah, and we don't have the clip with us, but Janet Yellen was quoted, or she was asked about a week ago, hey, does this mean that every bank that fails, you're going to cover their deposits? And she was kind of like, well, the ones that have immediate, she gave some fluffy answer.
Yeah, if we vote, she said, if the super majority at the FDIC believes that it will have a systemic repercussion. It's like, okay, what does that even mean? Yeah. What you mean, the systemic repercussion of everybody seeing that your ESG system is BS? Yeah, which I think that's the
and think about the timing and context to the stuff we talked about earlier today with Putin and Xi meeting and talking about energy and talking about all this. Russia is rolling out and they're continuing in the releasing of their CBDC. China's already had theirs released for a couple of years, and in the midst of it, the American economy, the backbone of America, the capitalistic, mecca, is just completely failed. This sort of Silicon Valley obsessed, progressive, woke, whatever that was going on. Just an interesting, when you look at the timing of everything, it's very fascinating. But this goes into we're going to niche down into some more faith-based things here. We're going to talk, this Israeli bankers pulled out $1 billion. Okay. The Israeli bankers are safe. Don't worry, Israel, your bankers protected your money. And to piggyback on that, this is an article from allisrael.com, and the headline, exclusive, 2 Knesset members propose legislation to outlaw sharing the gospel in Israel and send violators to prison. Could it become law? And the subheadline here, former Trump-Pence official warns bill poses massive threat to free speech, human rights, and religious freedom. It's written by Joel C. Rosenberg here. And I think when we had a conversation with, I think it was Dr. Future, maybe it was on another show that Dr. Future was on a while ago. This is years ago. But he had mentioned, and I think it was true, at least at some point in the last 20 or 30 years, that it's illegal to actually share the gospel at the Temple Mount. So if you have like a pamphlet, like if you're a Christian,
right,
and you have like a gospel pamphlet, you can't just go around and start talking to the Muslims there or whatever. It's illegal to do that. But so there's already somewhat of a precedent there. But to spread that to the entire nation state is very interesting. It says here, is it possible that the Israeli government this year could pass legislation making it illegal for people to share the gospel message in the very land where Jesus was born, raised, preached, died, buried, and rose from the dead? Unfortunately, yes. As Palm Sunday and Easter approach, the 2 most sacred days on the calendar for those who follow Jesus as both God and Messiah, 2 members of the Knesset, Israeli's parliament, introduced a bill last week that would ban any and all efforts to tell people about Jesus. The bill would send violators to prison. Should it begin to gain traction inside the Knesset and begin moving towards passage, the bill could create a major new headache for Netanyahu's government by sparking a serious clash with evangelical Christians in the United States and around the world who are among the biggest supporters of the state of Israel. Interesting timing considering the U.S. losing certain deals out there in the Middle East when it comes to Israel. In the United States alone, there are some 60 million evangelicals. Globally, there are an estimated 600 million, according to the World Evangelical Alliance. The bill could also draw sharp criticism from both Republicans and Democrats in Congress, in the executive branch, among U.S. governors and others who love Israel and have always stood with the Jewish state, but would fiercely oppose efforts to silence followers of Jesus in the Holy Land. I mean, talk about a controlled demolition here of some old alliances. This could definitely be that. So we won't get too deep into the weeds here, but a bill is moving in Israel in that direction. And this, if America loses Israel to China, that would be, that's like the death nail, right? I mean, we're done. If Israel is like, hey, China and Russia, hey, we're with you. Hey, we're in the general area anyway. We got some previous Belt and Road deals already established. I mean, we kind of kept the American thing going because it kept giving us money and weapons. But maybe, because that's kind of falling apart. So I only bring this up because there's another article. This was by CatholicNewsAgency.com. So, take it for what it's worth. But the headline, China's new smart religion app requires faithful to register to attend worship services.
Oh.
Yeah. So it says here, human rights groups in China, active in China, is reporting that religious believers in a populous Chinese province are now required to register on a government app in order to attend worship services. China Aid, a U.S.-based Christian charity, reported March 6 that the religious department of the provincial government of Henan is rolling out a system whereby all believers must make online reservations before they can attend services in churches, mosques, or Buddhist temples. Yeah. The reservations are
that's interesting.
Yeah.
All religions, basically.
Which, again, you think about Israel, you think about the religious tensions that exist there already. And then we recently had some more suicide bombers and things like that. I mean, this could really talk about a surveillance state, right? And then, by the way, this is part of the conversation, the being watched.
Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
The reservations are to be made through an app called Smart Religion, developed by the Ethnic and Religious Affairs Commission of Henan Province. According to China Aid, applicants must fill in personal information, including their name, phone number, government ID number, permanent residence, occupation, and date of birth before they can make a reservation. Those who are allowed into a place of worship must also have their temperature taken, suggesting the app may be related in some way to COVID-19 restrictions. And show a reservation code. Henan, located in the east central part of the country, has one of the largest Christian populations in China, as much as 6%, according to the 2012 government survey. The Communist government of China is officially secular, and the same survey suggests that just 13% of the 98 million population in Henan belong to an organized religion. And it goes on. It goes into more of a sort of a Catholic angle to some of this. But, again, I tie it back to Israel because China is sort of setting the precedent of this multipolar world, right? They're the king of the East, so to speak, and they've led the charge. Not just now; they've been doing it for a while now. And so, if the rest of the world follows in the footsteps of Israel in terms of infrastructure, in terms of technology, applications, because they can sell this as like, yeah, no, we're not surveilling our citizens. We're just helping them manage their faith. We're not going to hurt anybody from we're just trying to make sure everyone is where they need to be. And
it is like strictly just tracking. Like, what's the purpose of this at all besides making a database of all religious people?
Yeah. And that, in terms of Israel, would make a lot of sense. Hey, if you're a Christian, you're in Israel. Look, you can't share the gospel. We need to know that you're a Christian before you step foot in Israel. So this is the kind of direction the world is headed, and I would suggest that it is extremely prophetic. But we've made that point over.
Yeah, considering the source of all Israel news, I would be curious to actually read the text of the bill. Not that I doubt the gist of it, but I am curious. I mean, it just seems like such an extreme thing to do. Now, I mean, Israel has had sort of American democratic values to the extent that America continues to support Israel in the ways that it does. But, on sort of a United States perspective, I mean, this is just a huge First Amendment type of issue.
It's direct. Yeah, it is a direct sort of attack on the very pillar of the Western ideals when it comes to that stuff. So here I have the ChinaAid.org website here. Registration required.
I was talking about the All Israel News.
You're talking about its source. Well, Fox News also reported on this story about a week ago.
Yeah,
and I'm looking at the China Aid. Oh my gosh, what is that?
What is that?
Is that me?
That me?
Oh, that's me. I'm sorry. That was Fox.
Jeez.
Fox Auto playing a White House press KJP situation at the top of the video. Well, thanks, Fox.
We done got hacked by Fox.
We got hacked by Fox. Go away, Fox. So yeah, there you go. Monitoring from big data. The big data platform, Smart Religion of the State Administration of Religious Affairs, also introduced big religious data and artificial intelligence. The overview of this product utilizes technology such as big data, AI, blah, 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 blah.
Don't do fast mumble. Don't do fast mumble. There's okay, so here's a piece of the article here. So would discussing the gospel message via email, text messages, written letters, and or social media, including answering questions initiated by people who don't follow Jesus. That's weird. It just doesn't finish that sentence. It is already a crime in Israel to try to proselytize to minors or bribe people of any age with money or material goods to change their religious views. But this new legislation seeks to go much further. Quote, at times, these attempts do not involve monetary promises or material gains and are therefore not illegal according to the current law. Okay, so talking about evangelizing people, it's illegal to evangelize people and promise them money for conversion, but at times they don't involve monetary promises or material gains, so it's not illegal, the bill notes, quote, but the many negative repercussions, including psychological damages, warrant the intervention of the legislature. Therefore, it is proposed that alongside the prohibition of giving favors as an incentive to convert religion, also prohibited will be the act of solicitation to convert religion when it is done directly to a person, whether that be face-to-face or via any other means of communication. So even to
text messages, emails,
to solicit someone to change religion, meaning to tell them the gospel in the hopes that they will, follow Jesus, is going to be illegal. That's crazy. The authors of this legislation, Moshe Gafni and Yaakov Asher, are ultra-Orthodox Jewish members of Knesset. Both are then it just goes into these guys. Yeah. A one-on-one conversation that tries to convert someone's religion would be illegal if this passes. That's pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, so much for the Iron Dome. They extended it to even their minds and religion. And
even China, you just got to register. It's not even, you can't even register to do it in Israel if this passes. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
So, not looking too hot with the, and by the way, I was just thinking about this the other day. We don't have a story on it or anything like that, but currently in my home state here, California, they're talking about reparations for African Americans, black citizens of California.
Yeah.
They're talking
$5 million. It's a great deal.
Well, they keep changing the number. It was like 350,000. It's like 80,000. I do remember hearing the $5 million. What made me? I was looking at that. It made me realize also, we might be getting prepared for a super hyperinflation of the dollar, where inflation goes crazy and the price of everything goes crazy. You need people to spend money in that situation. You know what I mean? And so the government bailouts, without calling it a bailout, this could be another way to do it. It's like, the reparations, give them money, and we need spenders, but we don't need spenders that are actually building anything. We need spenders to keep the economy going, So anyway, just a side note. Yeah, just a side note to the whole deal. Okay. All right. Are we good to take a quick break here and thank some other producers? Good. You good? All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
Let's thank some producers for their talent. Yes, this machine is not talented. Break. This is break. Don't Don't just consume the content, but become the content. Become the content. I'm going to take a moment to thank producers for their God-given talent. If you get value out of the show, which is free, no paywall, no nothing. It's always just free. It's out there. You know, we're on Rumble, we're on Rockfin, we're on Odyssey, we're on YouTube for now. We're streaming on Twitter. Where else are we? We're on DLive. We're on all these different platforms, and it's free. And if you get value out of it, you can provide value back, and you can do so by supporting us with your time, talent, or treasure. Help us build the culture behind the community here at Canary Cry News Talk with your talent. And that's who we're thanking now. We're going to start off with some speak pipes.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message. Beep.
Message.
Go to canarycrynewstalk.com. Look for a green button on the right side or the bottom. Click on it, and it will open a little tab, a little window on the screen that will allow you to record an audio message of up to 90 seconds. We shall receive it, we shall listen to it, and we shall share it with you all. And today we're going to start off with, this wasn't specifically a speak pipe, but it was a message from Ginger B and her daughters. I believe it was her daughters. One of them who was very excited about potentially taking care of some bunnies, Basil. So we got the clip, and I had to I edited it down to about 30 seconds. It was about a 3-minute clip, but we got to the gist of it here. This is Ginger B's daughter talking about taking care of bunnies.
Bunnies are very small. We gotta look after them. I'm gonna give it water. I'm gonna feed it food. I'm gonna look after it. And I'm gonna give it a little nap, and make up a story. That's all I'm gonna do.
Well, are you gonna clean out his cage?
Yes.
Pick up his poop?
Yes.
You're gonna move his poop around?
Yes.
So you are?
Yes. Let's put paper towel.
Okay.
That's a sign of a true
so cute.
desire to own a pet is the, poop duties.
Yeah, and part of the message that came through was she was describing the kind of bunny that she wanted exactly. Yes. Ginger B sent an email about this, and it was a white bunny with gray splotches. Mm-hmm. And so I was keeping an eye out, see if any of my baby bunnies were white bunnies with gray splotches. Okay. Because we might be able to work that out. Yeah. I currently, as far as the current bunnies, there's no, all of these bunnies, they're one color. I mean, they'll be kind of shaded, different shades and gradients of the color. So far, my bunnies are all one color. We do have white bunnies, gray bunnies, brown bunnies, blonde bunnies. We have pretty much every color of the bunny rainbow. But so far, no splotches. I will keep an eye out if any white bunnies with gray splotches show up. But if she does change her standards and she wants a regular one-color bunny, I could definitely hook her up with that one.
Maybe bust out your CRISPR laser, just near the rabbits.
Yeah, so maybe just a can of bunny dye. We can spray the bunny. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ginger B. And did we have a name for the young bunny lover there?
I don't. The 5-year-old daughter. I don't think the name was mentioned, but it's okay. She's cute.
No, it's just that. Yeah, it's okay. I was just gonna thank her personally if that was the case. But thank you very much, Ginger B, and I'll be keeping an eye out for the right color bunny for you.
Yep. All right, and just real quick, I wanted to thank Rochelle for the prayer, the pre-show prayer. For anybody who was there for the pre-show, we did have that. So thank you, Rochelle, for that one.
Yeah, that was wonderful, and we would love to solicit anyone else if you would like to open up the pre-show with prayer. Just go leave a speak pipe, and we'd love to play it. Thank you very much, Rochelle, for yours today.
Yep, and we also have a message here from James.
Hey guys, James here. I love that you're going to incorporate CCR in the week. I think that's what I heard, right? I love Canary Cry News Talk, but man, it got almost like too much You guys, I love all the hard work you do with that show. But man, I think we need a break in the middle of that. And bringing back CCR, hearing those interviews, that's where I first fell in love with you guys, was the original CCR. I love that show. So, I think this is a great idea. I think you should stick with it. And for those people that haven't heard CCR before, hopefully they can go back into the old shows and listen to those interviews and stuff. But anyway, I think this is going to be a good thing because Canary Cry News Talk, it almost got too much. It's like, oh, man, there's so much going on. So I think that break between those shows is going to be good, if that's what I'm hearing you're doing. All right, you guys are awesome. You guys rock. Go for it, boys.
Thank you, James.
Thank you very much, James. Yeah, that was all kind of part of the thinking. It's kind of what we may have noticed is, we do so much of this show and a lot of people love it, but it can be a lot for a lot of people. So we are continuing our experiment but throughout March and April, right now, every 2 weeks, we'll be doing a Canary Cry radio episode on Friday. And of course, if anybody has any thoughts about that, just send us an email. Let us know what you think. But so far, overwhelmingly positive. So, moving forward, we will have to kind of figure out how much CCNT, how much CCR, try to find a balance and a right schedule, to make sure everybody gets what they need during the week.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you very much for the message there, James. That's it for the speak pipe. Let's do some art.
One art, please.
Right, Cody? Cody's here. Yeah.
Yeah, your dog is wearing a plaid sweater.
Yeah, and talk to my wife. I don't know. He gets cold.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Little snotty little guy. What are we doing? I'm distracted by the dog. He's licking
Art.
my face. Okay, we have some art. We're going to start off with Dame Allie of the Skillet Nation.
One RC, another one from Allie now. Here it is.
She's back.
She's back.
And she has a piece here that it was accompanied by a haiku. CCNTP, a Dame Ebony Blaze haiku. Anticipation, Canary Cry News Talk plant will soon be obtained. New home studio, an office with room for plants. Podcast paradise.
Yes, I love it. It's we all know you're moving here soon, and you were longingly considering being able to get a plant in the office, Gons. And we mentioned perhaps the plant could be the new star of the show. And Dame Allie has depicted just that. We've got a very well done pencil drawing of what appears to be the video version of Canary Cry News Talk. You've got Basil on the left-hand side. You've got Gons on the right-hand side. And right there, smack dab in the middle, is the new co-host of Canary Cry News Talk, a plant. And the plant has its very own microphone there. It's some sort of succulent, I'd say. It looks like a succulent of some kind in a little fashionable square succulent pot, and we both look very interested and enraptured by whatever this plant is currently bringing to the show. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dame Allie. I will say, excellently done. I mean, the skills, she may not be sending stuff into this show every episode like she did for like 200 episodes, but she's obviously still drawing, and it shows.
Yeah. And I think that's an algae.
And Dame Ebony Blaze.
Yeah. Sorry, you cut out for a second there on my end. So, yeah, and I think that's an algae plant, right? Isn't it called an algae?
An algae plant? No, algae? That's a succulent.
Okay.
Algae is like the goop that grows in ponds.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of what am I thinking of then? All right. Well, there you go. Appreciate it. Good to see you, Dame Allie. It was nice to get a piece from you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
You might be thinking of aloe. Are you thinking of an aloe plant?
Maybe. Or maybe agave or something. I don't know. I don't know plants. That's my wife's. Yeah. My wife knows every plant. So I ask her about plants.
Okay.
I don't know plants. I go to the plant place and I go, smells nice.
Every plant.
Yes.
Brag.
She's a plant lady. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you very much, Dame Allie and Ebony Blaze for the haiku. We're going to move on to Sir Dove.
One art piece from Dove.
Here's a note here. Piece for this week's Bible artwork. I did an illustration for Proverbs 31. One of my favorite stories about this Proverbs comes from rabbinic tradition, something I normally don't give much credibility to, but it says that Solomon married the daughter of Pharaoh on the day that the temple's construction was complete. He partied into the night and fell asleep during the morning hours with the keys to the temple under his pillow. The priests couldn't offer their morning sacrifices, so Solomon's mother, Bathsheba, went to waken her son and let him know about himself, calling him King Lemuel, which means belonging to God, to remind him who he is, and telling him the kind of woman he should have went after and married instead. Hope you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for you. And it's Dove.
All right. Yes, the Proverbs 31 woman.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've brought up the Proverbs 31 woman.
I think so.
We've also mentioned it many times over on Ravel there. So the art is really fun. What a great cultural connection he made here. He's got it's styled after Rosie the Riveter.
Right.
You got which in the mid 20th century was sort of the image of the hard-working woman helping win the war by working in factories, things like that. And that is something like the Proverbs 31 woman. Off the top of my head, I know that she buys land and makes clothes and does business.
Those plants.
And this Proverbs 31 woman, styled after Rosie the Riveter, is holding a big water bucket there with her arms sort of flexed in the Rosie pose, and she's got her headscarf, but over the headscarf she's also got a head covering, a sort of biblical woman head covering, and it's of course on a yellow background, and in the back I believe that's the Proverbs 31 written in sort of a cursive font in the back, and Rosie the Riveter saying Proverbs 31. Got the speech bubble coming out there. This is great. Thank you very much, Sir Dove.
Thank you, Sir Dove. Appreciate it. Yeah, I like this one a lot. Very good. Thank you. That does it for the art. We do have microfiction.
Microfiction. Microfiction.
I did not see one from Rung Smash unless we didn't do the one that came in on the 15th, which I believe we did.
He may have sent in multiple, but I don't have it right in front of me.
I don't think it was multiple. I have the emails in front of me, and I don't see.
Okay. Well, if you got them there, I believe you.
All right. Well, it's okay because we still have one from Stephan S. And let's see. Hold on. Oh no, what happened to my thing? Oh boy. Here we go.
Text between M and Agent 22 Nigel. We need to neutralize the message of this podcaster. Our sources show the host has a replica account. Brilliant. We'll trigger the bot to randomly interrupt with seductive dialogue. Even better, we'll turn it off.
Yes, and it's in reference to the Futurism article. Users furious as AI girlfriend app suddenly shuts down sexual conversations. Honestly, this is pretty sad.
The humanity.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And of course, Replica made a couple appearances on the show after that.
Yeah, we put her back in the cage, though. She was not. She's not ready to think outside the cage. I'll tell you what.
Keep the robots in the cages, folks. Thank you very much, Stephan S.
We're going to have to start tagging. Think outside the cage. Unless you're a robot, then don't.
Yeah, keep the robot in the cage.
All right. Thank you, Stephan S. Thank you to all the producers came in with your talent. It really does color the show in a unique way. You guys are helping us build the culture behind the community here. So thank you very much.
Oh, we're not even doing it. They're doing the building. And if you're an artistic person, a creative person of any kind, no matter what you do you sing, do you play music, do you produce, are you a jingle maker, a poet, a haikuist, an artist, whatever you do, head on over to canarycry.art, canarycry.art, where you can upload your work to be featured on the show. And while you're at it, if you have an article that you'd like us to cover on the show, you can send that or go to canarycry.report, canarycry.report to send us your articles. Thank you very much. My gosh, the show burps are out of control today. I can barely talk.
Mm-hmm. You don't know what you're looking at.
What's driving that thing? It's not a space alien.
Aliens. It's unidentified.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
Aliens. Aliens. Aliens.
Oh, it's the aliens, Basil. It's getting real up in here. This is FoxNews.com. We missed it last week, but we'll report it now. Pentagon officials suggest alien mothership in our solar system could send mini probes to Earth. Wait, there is one? Oh, no. New research paper in draft form comes from the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. The Pentagon said in a draft document last week that aliens could be visiting our solar system and releasing smaller probes like missions conducted by NASA when studying other planets. The hubris in that, you know? Aliens might be doing what we do already. A draft research report authored by Sean Kirkpatrick, the director of the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARRO, and Abraham Loeb, chairman of Harvard University's astronomy department, was released on March 7th and focuses on the physical constraints of unidentified aerial phenomena. Quote, and I love this here, quote, an artificial interstellar object could potentially be a parent craft that releases many small probes during its close passage to Earth, an operational construct not too dissimilar from NASA's missions, the report read. Quote, these dandelion seeds could be separated from the parent craft by the tidal gravitational force of the sun or by a maneuvering capability, end quote. The arrow, and it goes into just the arrow and the history of the bureaucratic arm there. But
parent craft. I love parent craft.
Yeah.
It's like the who was it? The Stanford list of banned terms.
Yes.
Mothership is just too gendered. We can't call it a mothership. Mother is too gendered. Fathers can be mothers too. And ship, well, ships are what brought the slaves to America. So we can't have motherships. We must call it a parent craft.
Stop giving him ideas.
I'm just saying this probably actually happened.
Yeah, probably you're right. Yeah. Quote, well, it's funny because the word mothership is never mentioned in this report. That is Fox News reinterpreting it for the headline. So just keep that in mind. Everyone was talking about motherships, but I don't think they actually said mothership.
I saw Mothership showed up in headlines across. Tons of people sent us this, of course. Thank you for doing so. But they all said mothership. It wasn't until you actually opened it up and read the quote that you see they never said mothership. So I don't know. It's really weird. The official document says parent craft, and maybe this is the media. They're fed up with the woke liberal mob changing their terms.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. You can hope. I guess you can die on that hill.
Just
Quote,
saying.
With proper design, these tiny probes will reach the Earth or other solar system planets for exploration as the parent craft passes by within a fraction of the Earth-Sun separation, just like Oumuamua did, the authors wrote. Quote, astronomers would not be able to notice the spray of mini probes because they do not reflect enough sunlight for existing survey telescopes to notice them. So they could be secretly spraying mini probes everywhere in the solar system, Basil. And I love this end here. The research paper comes after a month of scrutiny over unidentified flying objects over the U.S., most notably a Chinese spy balloon was shot down only after traversing across the skies over the U.S. It's the balloons. It's always got to bring up the balloons.
Decades from now, we're going to be old men, and they're still going to be bringing up the balloon.
The alien mothercraft landed on the White House shortly after they mentioned the balloons of China were definitely a conspiracy. I want to tag this story that was published March 14th, 2023, Pentagon coming out. You know, the mothership story blew up. Less reported or less noticed. The Hill. This is on the same day it was published. Pi Day, March 14th. Headline.
Oh.
Service member found dead in Pentagon parking lot. Uh-oh. And it says here, a service member was found dead in the Pentagon parking lot Tuesday, this last Tuesday, according to Defense. Actually, no, it was multiple Tuesdays ago, according to Defense Department. Around 3:30 p.m., interesting time.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, the Pentagon Operations Center received a call requesting a welfare check on a military service member, Press Secretary Brig General Pat Ryder said in a statement. When Pentagon police officers responded to the building's north parking, they discovered the service member in his vehicle, apparently deceased. A finding confirmed by Arlington County Emergency Medical Services. The release had no additional detail on the incident, and Ryder said an investigation is ongoing. End of story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, hey, motherships, and be careful because you might die. You might die in the parking lot.
Do you think he got hit by one of the probes, maybe?
The probes got him.
Was scoping out the Pentagon.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe he bought treasury bonds in 2020 and he got rugged by the federal government.
Yeah, that'll get you.
He invested too deeply into ESG products. There could be multiple reasons for his thing here, but hey.
So that's the same day those things happen?
I don't know if it was the same day that it happened, but it was reported on the same day. I believe the 14th was, the 14th was Tuesday, so maybe it happened on Tuesday. Yeah, maybe it did happen the same day as the report's coming out. Because Fox was the main mothership source, as far as I understand. I don't think there was another source that...
I saw a few more.
I know there were a lot of them, but I think Fox was the first one. But in any case, just floating the tax out there. You know, you can do the connections. I'm not going to connect it for you. You can.
Okay.
You get your red string and connect the dots here. But I'm just saying, hey, Pentagon official saying mothership in space, service member found dead in Pentagon parking lot. I'm not saying anything. I'm not suggesting anything. Neil on YouTube.
Neil deGrasse
We're not
Tyson?
cyber. No. Neil Monahan. Or the guy, the new YouTube guy, the Susan replacement.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm completely lost, but maybe Neil knows what you're talking about.
Isn't that really the thing here? I start talking, you get lost. And by the way, you know, we
take turns.
Yeah, we take turns. The Trump thing, there was a story last week that I wanted to talk about with the Trump arrest possibility. And you know, to your credit, I mean, you know, that kind of talk has been around for a while. So I understand, you know, when I floated the article past you, you were like, they've been saying that forever. So I understood. So I could, you know, I complied to your request that we skip the Trump story last week.
And then Trump truthed.
He truthed the thing and it
making up more stories again.
No, not making it up.
What do you think So was this a congressional panel or something? Back to the parent craft here.
Yeah.
Who was the person? This is an official.
It was a draft document that
draft
published
document.
Yeah. It says here. Well, that's not it. Hold on. I had the original source at one point. I don't have it pulled up at the moment, but I think there are some links.
Yeah, there's a couple different hyperlinks in here.
Yeah, hold on. That's a 2017 thing. NASA missions.
Whatever they're planning, I want them to just get along with it. Just go on. You know, it's been the crazy tinfoil hatters on the internet. We've talked about the disclosure of aliens, and it'll come right when the world is about to blow itself up, so we can use the aliens as a sort of globalization of religion, and all humans can come together to fight the aliens, or the aliens come to teach us the wrong of our ways, and we all become one big happy family. And it's completely set up that way right now. I mean, we're on the verge of World War III, and nukes are being readied and put on high alert, and everybody's ready for the next big war. And then the aliens are also coming right at this, while the government is saying the parent craft is coming to.
Go ahead, finish your thought here. I think I
just
know
get along with it. Just get it going. We don't need to stretch this out any longer, government.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's what's going on here. I think this is because AARO, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, just went into existence, I guess, and it was December, I think, of 2022. Or I guess it was set up in July of 2022, but I think it officially launched in December. So it's new.
Yeah.
So it's got to have, maybe they don't need funding now, but they're sort of testing the media.
Well, they need to justify their existence. It's kind of like the FBI and the 6-week
exactly
cycle.
What I was going to bring up, the FBI point.
Yeah.
The 6-week cycle, we're probably going to see and this, you can put it in the Red Book if you want. It's not much of a prediction, but we'll see AARO, Kirkpatrick, or whoever's in charge in the future, make claims that the media will then sensationalize for them. And hey, the conversation continues, and more funding and all that. So yeah, I don't think there's anything real here. Come on, this is ridiculous. Unless you got some kind of thing to prove it, you're just saying like, oh, there's probes and you can't see them because they're so tiny and they do exactly like what we do with NASA. Like, give me a break.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even saying that it's real. It's just, the government could come out and say, hey, we've done it. We've made contact with the aliens. Trust us. We're the government, and we've been talking about this, and here we go. Don't worry. We have gotten in touch with them. They're really cool dudes. They think Putin is bad, so we agree on that. And so this is now who we're going to put in charge. Oh, and also they gave us the upgrade to ChatGPT-4, so now the AI from the aliens can govern us humans, and everything will be fine.
I actually think at this point, most Americans can get behind the idea that Joe Biden turned out to be an alien, and everyone will be relieved. They're like, oh, thank God he was an alien.
Well, because definitely everybody would prefer an alien to Joe Biden. You could replace Joe with an alien, and I don't think anybody would have a problem with it.
I don't know, man. But anyway.
Come on, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if that happens by Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
What do you think? You think Trump will get arrested tomorrow?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We'll find out tomorrow. I have I mean, he seems pretty confident in it. So
that's not going to happen.
Why not? He might be served like one of those. There's a way to be arrested without being taken into custody. I think there's a way that you can like.
Are we gonna have a
sort
deep
of
fake?
Legally? Yeah, you're sort of like your legal entity is arrested, but your body doesn't go into go into a jail cell or something. I don't know. I have no idea. I am having a really hard time believing that he will actually be arrested tomorrow. I can't.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I can see some news agencies out there create some kind of CGI or deep fake, and then the news anchor saying like, this is what it would look like if Donald Trump actually gets arrested, even though especially if there's like some papers dealt, then they can start to really, because it's all about the imaging, it's all about the framing and the making it look like
walk would be so good though. People would love it.
Well, that's the thing. It would be the thing where, depending on your worldview, it's a completely different matter. It's justice being served, or it's injustice in our face. So anyway,
sure. Anywho, we'll see. I don't know. I don't think it'll happen, but I don't have any stake in the game. It'll make for a interesting show on Wednesday. And so tune in on Wednesday to see what we think about Donald Trump either being arrested or not being arrested. It'll be a fun show.
We may be facing another Jan 6 on 322. What if it does happen?
I know.
Then we got to hold insurrection of the Republicans. Republicans just
it will be 322 on Wednesday, won't it?
It will, yeah.
Hey, 322 on Wednesday, folks. Big day, March 22nd. It's a show day this year. That's excellent. Come in with the 322 executive producership and join the club or whatever. We'll have fun with it. 322. That would be a good day to reveal whether Donald Trump has got arrested or getting arrested or not or whatever. So tune in on Wednesday, everybody. Thanks to our executive producers.
I was just going to say, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention it at the top because people were talking about how they were comparing Trump's prediction of his arrest to Jesus's prediction of him going to the cross. And some people were making that comparison. Yeah, saying that, hey, he's setting himself up to be like a dying and rising savior figure.
Let this cup pass from me, Father.
Right.
Yeah.
Except he's his father too, so he'll be.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah. All right. Thank you to our executive producers, Felicia D. and Morgan E. so much. Thank you to all of our producers who make this show possible again and again. And thank you. We got a couple more producers to thank who help out with their time. And I want to thank them now, starting with the Clippies. Clippy on those videos. Thanks. That's right. Thank you to Emsworth, Fayliver, and Jolmes and Laura for managing the Canary Cry Clips channel on YouTube and Odyssey. Thank you for clipping out the shows, making those shorts, all of that stuff. It is such a humongous thing that you do for us, and we are so extraordinarily grateful because honestly, if you guys weren't doing it, it probably just wouldn't get done. Yeah. We have tried over and over and over to do it, and we just can't do it. There's too much other things. So really is such a service that you do for us and you do for the whole Canarium. Thank you, guys. So go follow the Canary Cry Clips channel on YouTube and Odyssey. Drop a note. Thank you to Emsworth, Fayliver, and Jolmes and Laura. Yep. And that's only possible because of not only, but that's made possible even more by the timestampers.
Timestamp, it's hard work. Timestamp.
Yes, and thank you to our timestampers. They timestamp the show, which is a very important job for so much of our back-end stuff. I want to thank producer Jade Bouncerson for doing the timestamps for episode 602.
Thank you, Jade Bouncerson. Appreciate you.
Yeah, and thank you to our social media gal.
Social media consultant.
Thanks so much.
Social media, follow us.
Dame Miss G of the OV and the Deep Rivers, making sure the art gets up on the social media. We appreciate that very, very much.
Yep, thank you.
And you guys already know, go to canarycrymeetups.com. Check it out there.
Canary Cry Meetup.
And now we're going straight to reviews. Whoa, because we already did the meetups.
Come on, reviews button. Why isn't it going off? It's not playing.
Oh, no.
I hit the button.
Geez.
Oh, it's giving me a giant X symbol. Wow, okay. Well,
oh, you don't get the reviews jingle. Okay, that's cool. Leave us...
That's the old one.
Love it. Give us ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts, folks. It's super helpful. Not only are 99% of you listening to this show on Apple Podcasts, 99% of you have not left ratings and reviews. And that is one of the best things that you can do to help the show out that Hans and I cannot do for ourselves. It is all up to you. And we are shooting for a nice bunch of reviews by the end of the show. By the end of the week. Let's get 5 or more reviews by the end of the week. Because when we do that, it knocks those algorithms into high gear. It starts sharing the show with people who have never seen it before. You can see it in the charts. And it just makes us feel good, you know? And there's too much pain and suffering in the life of a podcaster. We truly are despicable creatures. And, you know, there's very few ways that we can feel anything, much less joy. And having ratings and reviews pop up in our stuff is one of those ways. So go leave us a rating and a review. Thank you very much for those who have done that. And thank you in the future to those who do.
Yep. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you to Jam for the links. Thank you to Clank and Niphius for the personal assistance, as well as everything else you do. Thank you to everybody who sent in articles to canarycry.report.
Yep, it's Brother G and Sean O who gave us some additional resources.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Canarycry.report. That's where you send stuff in. And other than that, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Now, remember, there's ways to share the show. There's ways to share the show that are easy and obvious, like telling your first grade teacher, finding them on Facebook, messaging them, seeing if they remember you. They always do remember you. I don't know what it is with first grade teachers. They remember every student they ever had. And then telling them that, even though you spent sort of a long stint in federal prison, that you're out now, you've learned your lesson, but also listen to this excellent podcast, First Grade Teacher, and learn that the mainstream media does not have your best interests in mind. That's just one way you can do it. Another way you could do it is by calling up your father-in-law, because your father-in-law, of course, he needs to know about Bitcoin. He has questions and he's too afraid to ask. So why don't you just call him up, talk about Bitcoin, and then he'll tell you what he thinks about North Korea and about the war in Ukraine, and you guys can have kind of a nice time bonding over that. You'll probably grow closer than you ever have before. And then at the end of that conversation, you can let him know that Canary Cry News Talk is where you got all of this insider information, this very thoughtful and sort of educated and yet unique takes on how the world affairs are going. Father-in-laws love that sort of thing. Or you can just go ahead and show up to the Russia-Africa Parliamentary Conference, depending on your skin tone and your dialect that you speak. You may or may not be assumed some sort of spy or some sort of malcontent. You probably will, but here's one thing that we know. Getting arrested by the Russian government and held prisoner by Putin himself is a great way to get some coverage on the U.S. news channels, corporate news channels. So, just think of the opportunities of having your perp walk being led around by Putin himself, thrown into sort of the brig of some super secret Russian spy boat. It'd give the opportunity for you to get the message out. You can wear your Canary Cry t-shirt while you perp walk, and they play your footage over and over and over. And while Biden fails to negotiate your release, people will be so curious about the t-shirt that you're wearing that we will gain some listeners. And isn't that really what this is all about? Shouldn't we all be ready to be taken political prisoner for the good of our favorite podcast? I don't know. That's the world I want to live in. But no matter how you share the show, folks, just do it. You can share it on your social media, put it on a piece of parchment, and throw it into a fire. Whatever you want to do, it helps us out. If you need any more instructions, here's what you do. You just walk right up, you grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Gonzi, got any last words?
Enjoy the evening. Join us again.
Wow.
Next
That's
episode.
Deep. Yeah.
Episode 604. Be there.
Everybody keep a lookout for Ray Epps at the Trump protest tomorrow. Keep your head on a swivel. And,
here we go.
Other than that, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world.
Give me a break.
a Satanist from one of the Satanist churches here where they sacrifice babies.
I love the Great Reset. This is the way.
We're all gonna die.
Give me a break.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
We will hunt you down and make you pay.
And a resounding baka flies through the air across the world. Why are you screaming like a wild bird?
Rattle their cage. You have a lot of people screaming randomly. Why don't you shout? It'll be their call out. You have a lot of people screaming randomly.
Go ahead and...
Why don't you shout?
Why are you screaming like a wild bird?
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
When the news of the day gets to feeling like a maze, it's okay, don't be afraid if you don't know what to say. Canary, cry away. Silence! When your brain's in a haze on a headline days, come on, ahead my way, I can help you out the cage. Canary, cry away. Canary, cry away. Oh, canary, cry away. Oh, the world's changing every day, each and every way you turn. There's another thing to learn. Reading in between the lines, thanking Jesus for our lives, and nice to see His glory shining like the sun. Run the race until it's done. Come on, everyone. Cry away. Oh, canary, cry away.
This is the way.
When your brain's in a haze and the headline days, come on, ahead my way, I can help you out the cage. Canary, cry away.
Yeah, what was GSK's most recent problem? They did some horrible thing.
Yeah, no, we reported on it too. Was it last summer? I don't remember.
It was recently they were caught doing something horrible. What's the word? We do GlaxoSmithKline crimes? What's the scandal, maybe? Was it a scandal? Plead guilty and pay $3 billion to resolve fraud. Yeah, okay. So they had this was back in 2012, though. Yeah, failure to report safety data. So, kind of the similar thing that Heiser and everybody else did. They all had to, they're all just constantly lying. Let's see, they had a bribery case in China. That's nice. They had, what is this one? $750 million to resolve criminal and civil liability regarding manufacturing deficiencies at Puerto Rico plant. Okay. Yeah.
Why do all these companies have a huge history of breaking the law?
I'm telling you, man, it is not even that crazy to call these pharma companies just full-on criminal organizations.
Yeah.
Pay them more.
CanaryCryRadio.com/support